As the song says, New York, New York is a hell of a town. You don't believe it? Let Andy have a go at it.
The rest of our country has been great to New York since the attack. New Yorkers are being consoled, felt sorry for, sympathized with, even loved. It's a strange experience because they are unaccustomed to being cared for and fussed over. They hardly know what to make of it. The biggest change in New York since the terrorist attack is in the attitude of those people who inhabit it. They are nicer to each other. They are saying good morning to neighbors to whom they had not previously nodded. Strangers not so strange. The shared sense of loss and bereavement has brought them together. The best of what has always been is still here, unchanged. Culture is rampant, and signs of the best of civilization are still everywhere apparent. New Yorkers still go more places, do more things. All right. The pace is faster, driving, walking, or on small wheels. Out-of-towners, amused at how fast the city moves, often fail to notice that it gets there first. There are more people doing more things than in any place on earth. There are more good restaurants than in Paris, more concert halls than Vienna, more museums than London. If business is bad in the business pages of the newspapers, it isn't apparent on New York City streets. Everyone carries a recent purchase. A woman willing to pay $1,200 for a simple dress does not have to go to Saks Fifth Avenue to buy it. Madison Avenue is filled with small shops with big prices. Central Park, 3 miles taken out of the heart of the city, is as busy as ever. New Yorkers use it like a backyard. They run in it, play in it, attend concerts in it. Every morning of its light, the park is awakened by the footsteps of the young and the old, the involved people of the city. New York is not the official capital of anything. Those who live here call it simply the city, as if there were no other. They have not fixed on the whole, left where 3,273 people died, and it is visitors, not New Yorkers, who go to view the remains of the World Trade Center as though it were an open casket. In Dayton or Austin or Atlanta, a visitor is asked, how do you like Dayton, Austin, Atlanta? New Yorkers are indifferent to praise or criticism of their city. They are themselves ambivalent or indifferent to their city's size, excellence, or importance at the top of the international rank of cities. They use their city, seldom standing back to admire it. A New Yorker passing St. Patrick's Cathedral on his way to work does not look up from his thoughts to admire it. You wouldn't guess, but he's probably been touched by your attention. There is something just a little off this year about saying to anyone in New York, have a Merry Christmas. Perhaps have a Christmas might be a more appropriate greeting, and New Yorkers, you'll be pleased to know, seem to be having one.
Not long ago, a Time magazine cover story called New York City, the Big Apple, a rotting apple, a city that was losing jobs, tourists, and the middle class. Admittedly, there are still too many people unemployed and uneducated, but real estate is booming, tourists are flocking, and more the Big Apple is beginning to look like apple pie. But is it all just on the surface? No. Go down into the subway.
Please stand to the side, let the exiting passengers off, do not block the pathway.
Subway riders in New York actually letting passengers off, being obedient.
Continue to move, be considerate of your fellow passengers.
They're not shoving, they're not pushing, they're moving in a single file. Who'd have thought? It's part of a new test program called Step Aside, Speed Your Ride.
Stay clear of the closing doors, please, and have a good day. When I say good morning to them, they're responding, good morning back, have a good day.
We're in New York, right?
Yes, we're in New York City, in the heart of New York City, Grand Central Terminal.
And people are being cheerful.
Yes, they are.
Polite.
Polite.
They're not pushing, no more elbows.
It really is like the siege has lifted after 10 or 15 years of a siege mentality, of triple locks and pit bulls in the living room and all that. It has, in fact, changed.
Hard-boiled, longtime New York reporter Pete Hamill is now the editor of the New York Daily News.
Crime is really down.
Yes.
This is not some kind of fudging of numbers.
No.
This is not a seasonal thing.
No. It's not only statistically recognizable, you can feel it in the sense of the city. The sense of menace has ebbed.
No wonder the city is leading the country in reducing crime. Murders have been cut in half since 1992. New Yorkers seem to have relaxed, and you see one New York contradiction after the next. Polite subway riders And you can find peaceful, quiet moments at Bellevue, the city's largest hospital.
4 or 5 years ago, if I were here in the ER with you, would I be seeing something completely different? Would I be...
More noise, more blood, more people with gunshot wounds, and every day, almost every day, every other day, we'd see someone who was shot to death. We just don't see it. It's a much less common event.
Here's another surprise. Tourists flocking to Harlem.
Willkommen in Harlem. Dutch or Français? Français. Ah, Français. Bonjour, madame.
With crime way down, Harlem today is one of the most popular stops for tourists.
Yeah.
42nd Street, once the boulevard of peep shows, now you see Mickey. Disney's coming here. And Times Square, notoriously seedy, grungy Times Square, it's amazingly clean. Up and down New York, we found signs of life improving.
Can I taste it?
Why not? It's the best in the world.
We're at Katz's Deli on the Lower East Side.
I want to ask you whether you detect a change out there in the city.
Yes. There's less crime, less crazy idiots running around, and there ain't too many dope addicts running around.
This is Mott Haven in the South Bronx, where drug dealers used to own the neighborhood. James Roundtree runs a soup kitchen. If I were standing right here 5 years ago,
you would be standing in a wasteland with the addicts all around, winos and everybody around. You know, this is a whole different situation. This was a no man's land.
well, what about Crown Heights in Brooklyn, the site of rioting 6 years ago between blacks and Orthodox Jews? Youth counselor Richard Green was on the front lines back then. Today, he and Hasidic Rabbi Shea Hecht say the edge is off.
Now, are you two friends?
Depends what you call the word friends.
We may not hang out on Sunday together, but we respect each other. Bottom line is I can pick the phone up and give him a call. We're no longer two ships passing each other in the night.
I believe there was a tremendous change and an honest change.
As we were talking, the people in that neighborhood began shouting at us.
You gotta speak to people that live.
Where do you live?
Do they want to speak? That's what she said.
We expected to hear that things had not changed that much for them.
Do you feel that things are different?
Oh, yeah.
Better? You feel it? You can sense it.
It is better.
You speak to the average citizen out there on the street, and they will tell you almost unequivocally that they feel a different climate.
There is some kind of monumental sea change going underway among young American blacks, because that's where the crime rate is down. And whether that was the end of the crack fade, the Million Man March, nobody knows, because we as reporters have done such a terrible job, we don't know why.
You can't really put your hands around it.
Exactly, because I think like anything truly interesting and monumental in a society, it's complicated.
The whole question of the New York turnaround is complicated. Some say it's because of the boom on Wall Street and the general improvement in the economy. Others say it's the subsiding of the crack epidemic. Still others point to the city's new crime strategy.
Gary, what does it look like on the 104 side? What kind of a week have you been having?
Every week at 7 a.m., the NYPD's top brass gathers at headquarters to zero in on one precinct's performance at a time.
16 robbery arrests so far last month. If you look at the robberies, the majority occurring in Sector John.
It's called ComStat, short for computer statistics. Computer screens show captains block by block which crimes are up in their neighborhoods, and then they are held responsible for bringing those numbers down.
For the record, on that 7-3 precinct case, crime scene was never notified. We'll hope that gets corrected.
And they'll tell you the way to get things corrected is to put the cops where the crime is and keep them there.
The difference between this time and every other time is that we have not left that location. We still have 2 officers assigned to that place 7 days a week, 24 hours a day.
And it's not just the hardened criminals they're going after. They're also aggressively cracking down on petty offenders like loiterers, public drinkers, and squeegee men who mopped your windshield whether you liked it or not.
It's essentially saying that you have to deal with the small problems. You can't just ignore them completely, otherwise they become big problems.
The man who takes and often gets the credit for the new crime strategy is the tough, combative mayor, Rudy Giuliani, the first Republican to run the city in 20 years.
Professor Wilson, about 20 years ago when he was at Harvard, first propounded this theory that if you have a building and a couple of people break a window in your building, you better fix that window right away, because if you don't deal with it, eventually somebody will break another window and another one, and your building will fall down. Let's put some emphasis on street-level drug dealing, not just let it run rampant, prostitution, graffiti, aggressive panhandling.
One of the things he's done is he's gone after the little things. How much has that been a factor in giving people hope and making people feel positive?
I think that it's symbolic in a way. It's saying you can get something done, because if you can tell the idiot with the boombox to knock it off and not get shot, you've already, and he actually turns it down because someone might come over and tap him on the shoulder and take him down to the police station. I think that gives you hope that you want to live in that society.
Columnist curmudgeon Jimmy Breslin disagrees.
You don't see the panhandlers on the street. You don't see drug dealers on every corner anymore. The squeegee men aren't out there.
Oh, the squeegee men.
Yeah.
Oh, God, what a danger. Do you know how many murders they committed, the squeegee men? How many crimes they committed?
You don't buy this theory that if you do these small little things, life gets better?
What about 1 million people in school that you're not teaching while you're concentrating on squeegee men, so that the people driving home to Jersey aren't bothered? Come on, please.
But there's this theory that if you do these little things, the people get
Whose theory? Somebody from Harvard or Yale has a theory on that broken window in a building or something?
Yes.
Let them stay in New Haven, huh?
There's no renaissance in Black and Latino and poor and working class communities.
Richard Perez, a leader in the Hispanic community, says the police strategy gives officers broad license to stop and search anyone they want. The fact is that while crime is down, complaints about police harassment have gone up.
The quality of life stop and search laws we hold are a violation of constitutional and civil and human rights, and what they amount to is a virtual state of siege in poor communities where the police say if a community is drug prone, if there's drugs being sold in that community, they have the right to stop anyone, demand identification, the kind of identification that they want. My son wears baggy pants, and I worry that he fits a profile in the minds of many white police officers who come from segregated communities outside New York City, who view him first not as a human being, but as a potential perpetrator.
There's a concern that with all the police on the street, stopping people left and right, that you're going to end up, if you don't have it already, with a civil liberties problem. That people's rights to walk down the street are being abridged.
Well, let me tell you what rights were being abridged before this. People's right to live was being abridged. People's right to be able to walk through a place and not be mugged or raped or beaten.
Is there not a trade-off? You don't feel there's a trade-off there?
Would you give up your rights? Would you give up your rights? Would you agree to live under virtual police state conditions and have your children?
But you're exaggerating.
I'm not exaggerating.
It's no exaggeration either that the mayor's cuts in government jobs have produced pockets of high unemployment, that there's a real crisis in the schools, that Giuliani sliced $1 billion out of the education budget, that classrooms are overcrowded and reading scores low. Now the mayor promises to put half that money back, but spending per student is still the lowest it's been in 9 years. But the critics are often drowned out by the boosters who say the crackdown on crime has created such a feeling of rebirth that companies and megastores, wary of moving to New York just a few years ago, are streaming in. And thanks to generous tax breaks, Disney is investing $8 million to renovate a theater on 42nd Street. But some say the city is in danger of being Disney-fied.
Why should Times Square be safe for children? I mean, they have the whole rest of the country.
Writer Fran Lebowitz says Mayor Giuliani's vision of New York is sucking the life out of the city.
He's kind of turned this from the, Big Apple to the Big Apple pie.
What do you say to those who say people like you are romanticizing the gutter?
I'm not romanticizing the gutter. I didn't move here when I was 18 years old because I heard how clean it was. You came here because you thought it would be interesting. And it was. And it's significantly less interesting now.
What do you think of Giuliani?
Not much.
But there are those who think that without his hard-nosed, uncompromising personality, nothing would have changed in this town.
There are people who feel that you need to have a mayor who's an SOB to lead this tough city. And that if he's not difficult, maybe a little mean-spirited, that you can't lead this place, you can't run this place?
Being tough and being biased are two different things. He's unfair. He's rewarding those who have, and he's punishing those who have not. That's not tough. That's just ugly.
I didn't vote for him, but it must be said for him. He seized the moment. He came in and said, we're going to change this, and he did. I wish there was more grace to the man. That's all. I think you can have order and grace at the same time.
Poor people, middle-class people, rich people have the sense of you as someone who is treating the city like we're all a bunch of children, that you're our daddy, and you're a strict daddy. This is your image.
Well,
Do I have to tell you this?
I don't care what my image is. What I care about is the results.
Have you been to Times Square?
Yeah, with the celebration of the corporations on the signs. I love it. There's no dirt.
Yeah.
No dirt at all.
Yeah.
City dies unless it's got some dirt and a little raciness.
You don't think that it's good that you can walk down 42nd Street and hookers aren't coming up to you every
Well,
second?
who's going to be there? What's
Well,
on
they're going to have
42nd Street
Disney.
now?
There's going to be
Disney, I'll take the hookers.
McCullough is 79 now, mulling some ideas for his next book. He and Rosalie, his wife of nearly 60 years, have 5 children. As newlyweds, they lived in the shadow of the Brooklyn Bridge. It was the inspiration for his second book, The Great Bridge from 1972, his first bestseller. To McCullough, it's a profound symbol of the American journey. We close with his thoughts on its meaning, a looming, almost living presence as we talk behind its back at Brooklyn's River Cafe. You had described this as America's Eiffel Tower.
Yes, indeed. If you could pick this bridge up and turn it over, underneath it would say Made in America. Those are probably the largest Gothic.
It has endured for 130 years, and McCullough is still awestruck by the genius and courage of the people who built it.
I look at that and think, who were those guys? And how the hell did they do it?
Remember, this was the 1860s and 70s. Workers had to reach bedrock at the bottom of the East River, working 60, 70 feet down in wooden boxes, breathing pumped-in air.
They would send men down through shafts into that space to dig.
By hand?
By hand. All by hand.
Pickaxes and shovels?
Yes. So the temperature down there was unbearable. The air was awful. And the days were long and as arduous as you could imagine. Many of them couldn't take it.
McCullough's pantheon of heroes includes Washington Roebling, who oversaw the bridge's construction, and his father, John, a German immigrant who designed it.
He was a new American. He was a very proud American. He wanted to show this is what we can do, we Americans. And he certainly did.
Indeed, in fair weather and foul, the bridge looks as sturdy and iconic as anything the country's ever built.
This is a bridge about motion. Ships passing underneath, people walking over promenade, traffic pouring across, 24 hours a day. It's still serving its purpose.
How many more years do you think it'll stand?
Oh, forever. If we have a civilization wise enough and appreciative enough to take care of it.
Time was, you could take city living for granted. When you turned on the tap, you knew water would come out. When you drove over a bridge, you didn't worry about it falling down. Garbage was taken away. Buses and subways moved people to where they wanted to go. All part of what the experts call infrastructure, the elaborate systems that make living in big cities possible. But suppose the infrastructure in your city started to collapse. In the country's most famous city, it's already begun to happen. To the average New Yorker, the first announcement that there was a crisis in the city's underpinnings came 15 years ago, when a commuter by the name of Michael Nestor was driving home behind a cement truck on New York's elevated West Side Highway.
I couldn't figure out what was going on. I thought it was an earthquake for sure. And all of a sudden I heard this big bang and I went down with the pavement of the road to the bottom of the street, which is about 30 feet.
Flat in your car?
Flat on my car. I checked myself out and just thank God I was alive. And I opened the door and I stood outside and waited for help.
The reason for the collapse of the West Side Highway was simple neglect. The city hadn't bothered to paint the steel that held up the elevated road. And when you don't paint metal, it rusts, loses its strength, and eventually collapses with whatever happens to be on top of it at the time. And so you might have thought an incident as dramatic as the collapse of the West Side Highway would have galvanized the city into action. But 8 years later, across town on the East Side Drive, stockbroker John Burnham ran into a similar little problem while driving home in his Mercedes.
And all of a sudden, as I'm just pulling into that lane, the whole left side of my car collapsed. And then I looked out the window and I just saw nothing. And I said to myself, my God, the road has collapsed. And if I had been maybe 1 foot further to the left, the car would have been in that hole, and who knows what would have happened. You just have to be a fatalist, Harry, about life in New York and do the best you can and hope for the best.
But hoping for the best doesn't help much in a city where disasters have become routine events. In this case, a water main break on Columbus Circle, where several hours earlier, politicians had met to celebrate the discovery of America. 5 million gallons of water has erupted onto the streets, flooding basements, holding traffic, turning the subway lines into flowing rivers.
Attention passengers, attention downtown 6th Avenue riders. Due to a water main break, there is no downtown 6th Avenue service at this time.
Within hours, teams of emergency specialists had rerouted traffic, pumped out the subway lines, and identified the problem. A cast iron water main laid down in 1898. Just one section of pipe in a city that has 6,000 miles of aging water mains. No section of New York is immune from these water attacks. Wall Street has been struck, Madison Avenue, Park Avenue, Broadway. It's as if there were countless time bombs ticking away into the city, certain to go off and flood the streets many times every year. It's so rotten under there that the city has created teams of water detectives to roam the streets of New York with electronic devices, listening for the telltale sounds of water hemorrhaging under the surface.
Well, we know tonight, this whole street could be collapsed and water going everywhere.
There's no telling how many more floods there might be without this early warning system, but New Yorkers have come to accept these subterranean water attacks, much as Filipinos or Thais stoically put up with the annual monsoon. But last spring, no one here was able to be so philosophic about the disintegration of another critical part of New York's infrastructure, the city's bridges. Not after Mayor Koch announced that he was closing down the vital Williamsburg Bridge. That bridge normally carries 250,000 people back and forth between Manhattan and Brooklyn each day.
Better to be inconvenienced and safe than to be convenienced and dead.
What New Yorkers saw on their television that night was scary. Disintegrating steel that was all too reminiscent of the West Side Highway collapse. It turned out that most of the bridge had not been painted in 15 years. The new transportation commissioner found he could put his hand through portions of the rusting steel that was supposed to help hold up the bridge. That was enough to unnerve anyone. But then, when the main cables that keep the bridge upright were inspected, hundreds of the iron strands that make up the cables were found to be broken.
Scary, man. That's all I can tell you. It's scary.
I mean, not one of the bridges here that they didn't know it had to be repaired 10 years ago.
Now, this city, which cannot function without its bridges, was acknowledging that decades of neglect had left at least 90 other bridges in a state of extreme disrepair. And in the case of this 6-lane bridge built in 1925, the conclusion was, as Deputy Transportation Commissioner Sam Schwartz told us, nothing could save it.
This is the concrete that supports the bridge. And the concrete obviously is not supposed to end at this point. It's not a levitated bridge. It's supposed to be supported. If you look at the underside of the bridge and you've got holes right through the deck. This bridge, this is the end. It's over for this bridge. A new bridge will take its place.
Is it just old age catching up with them? Is that what's causing the trouble?
No, the bridges are built to last, not decades,
not even centuries. The bridges should last many centuries. It just needs to be maintained. It needs to be maintained every year.
As Transportation Commissioner, in charge of the city's 846 bridges, Ross Sandler is one of the new breed of officials brought in to confront the decay. If you take New York City and its bridges alone to get them back to a state where you can maintain them reasonably, what's the bill?
Well, it's large. We're going to have to spend $2.7 billion over the next 10 years to move all of the poor and fair bridges into the good column. We don't have that money.
Needless to say, it's unnerving to look at what has happened to the foundations of this monumental city. Most everything seems to be collapsing all at once. But if a prize were to be given for the greatest of all the infrastructure disasters, it would go hands down to this New York trademark, the 600-mile-long subway system, once the marvel of the world, which 3.7 million people ride and count on each day.
I'm terrified that I'm going to be trapped there and that I'm not going to be able to get out.
That New Yorker was worried about attacks on the subway's riders by the system itself, whose subway cars were being derailed and bursting into flames almost daily. There were literally hundreds of underground fires. Riders were being marooned in dark tunnels, gassed with noxious fumes. You might think New York subway riders are simply doomed, but something quite remarkable has started to happen down here in what had become a hellhole. The city finally realized it couldn't function without its subway. And so it raised an incredible amount of money and hired two men whom we might think of as two of New York's first infrastructure heroes, Bob Kiley and David Gunn, drafted to come here from Boston's Transit Authority with an urgent mandate to rescue the dying patient.
It seems that Americans, unless they can feel, taste, and sense imminent disaster, don't like to spend money on physical assets, particularly on their maintenance. And it took imminent disaster to move the political structure toward dealing with this problem.
And how much is it going to cost New York to bring its subway and buses back into a state of decent repair?
It will take us some $32 billion to dig ourselves out of the hole that we found ourselves in the early 1980s.
It's not clear where all that money is going to come from. But after the billions Kiley and Gunn have already spent on new cars, new tracks, and restored stations, the subway system, much to everyone's surprise, is clearly on the road to recovery. But there's another part of the New York infrastructure so long neglected that no matter what the city does, it's going to have to live with the threat of an almost apocalyptic disaster for years to come. The threat is that New York will be cut off from its water supply. If there is ever a major rupture or breakdown in either of the two huge and aging tunnels that run deep under the city and bring almost all of New York's water into a system that is leaking millions of gallons each day.
If the water stops and you don't have water, I mean, it's just a matter of days before, people just can't survive.
We began to see why the water engineers are concerned about this disaster scenario when we went underground near Rockefeller Center to look at some of the 70-year-old valves and gears that would have to be relied on to move the giant gates that would seal off the tunnel for repair and then have to reopen it to bring water back to a bone-dry city. If you shut it down on some of the big valves, do you have any reason to believe you could open them up again?
Cannot guarantee that. We're very, very concerned about doing that. We don't even test that equipment, and the concern that in the testing process, we will precipitate a problem. On this particular type of valve, we've had numerous failures. The gears have broken, stems have broken, internal parts have broken.
Well, that's why I pray every night that neither of the two water tunnels that we have breaks.
Not even the city's eternal optimist, Mayor Koch, can figure out how New York would deal with this crisis.
This city, while we would come through every catastrophe, that's a catastrophe I want to avoid, would be bereft of water in major parts of town. And we would have to find ways to cart water there by truck, which is terrible. You do that when you have an earthquake.
The experts know that it might be worse than an earthquake. And so they launched the largest municipal public works project in history to do something about it. But granted, that monumental effort is a little hard to find. This highly unmemorable sign, Water Tunnel Number 3, is about the only visual evidence from the street of what is unquestionably the city's most dramatic attempt to rebuild its crumbling foundations. We're in the Bronx, but directly beneath me, 25 stories straight down, is a site that will convince you why it's so expensive to make a big city work. This is the valve chamber of the city's new water tunnel. 2 football fields long, it's designed to direct the flow of some 1 billion gallons of water a day. It's just one part of a vast subterranean tunnel complex, 18 years in the making at a cost of 22 workers' lives, that Chief Engineer Joe Conway took us to see.
At this point, we're 400 feet below ground. When we get towards Midtown Manhattan, we're going to be 900 feet below ground. That's the 90th story of the Empire State Building downward.
Now that work is about finished on this new 13-mile water tunnel, can New York stop worrying about a breakdown in one of those old tunnels? Not yet. Until the second phase is completed 6 years from now, none of this offers any backup protection whatsoever. And as far as the whole water tunnel project is concerned, it's not scheduled to be completed until the year 2036. The message here is quite clear. Without a healthy and functioning infrastructure, big city living becomes impossible. But what is it going to cost to make sure that when you drive down the road, you don't fall into a cavern or the bridge doesn't collapse? How much to make sure the subway stops gassing you and gets you to work on time? And how much to make sure no one ever has to put those old valves to the test? Well, for all the infrastructure repairs that the city says it now has no choice but to make over the next 10 years, the bill is going to be $50 billion.
6,100 miles of sewers, 6,000 miles of streets, 26,000 acres of parkland, 1,000 school buildings. Nothing works forever, you know. Everything ultimately breaks.
In case your reaction to this story is, thank God I don't live in New York, we feel obligated to pass on what the urban experts told us. The decay overwhelming New York is eating away at virtually every American city east of the Mississippi. It's heading west from Boston to Detroit, from Denver to Seattle. And they say it's not long from seizing Los Angeles, if the San Andreas Fault doesn't get it first.
We take so much for granted, like our water. How the heck does it get into our faucets? How does a city as big as New York provide enough water, not just for drinking, but for bathing and laundering? New York needs 1.3 billion gallons of water a day. The answer is that it takes a wonder-of-the-world kind of engineering feat involving 2 tunnels that are now so old they're leaking, and nobody knows how long they can last. And so an urgent project is underway beneath the city's streets, construction of Water Tunnel Number 3. It's one of the biggest public works projects on Earth, 60 miles long, and when it's finished, it will have taken 50 years to build and cost $6 billion. It all starts upstate with a series of mountain reservoirs. 100 miles north of New York City, there are watershed areas as far as the eye can see, with reservoirs at such high elevations that gravity alone carries the water down to the city with enough pressure that no pumps are needed. But once the water gets to the city, it flows down into those 2 aging tunnels that have never been repaired or even fully inspected. The city needs to get Tunnel Number 3 online before there's trouble. Work on the new water tunnel has been going on since 1970, but it's far from finished. Mike Greenberg, who used to be in charge of the project, took us on a tour of one section under construction. The ride down, in a steel cage called the Alamac, would take 4 minutes. For some people, there's a fear of depths, similar to a fear of heights.
Danger amputation?
That's not an official sign, it's just
It's an unofficial sign.
Something to keep people alerted.
We went down almost 600 feet below ground. That's the equivalent of a 60-story skyscraper. But Mike said the change in air pressure would be imperceptible.
Down here it's a little more because you're lower, but you don't notice the difference.
What's the temperature down there, generally?
52 degrees, 50 degrees. We call it our air conditioner in the summer and our heater in the winter.
Okay, not too cold, not too hot. Breathing is easy, but...
Hey, Mike, what's all this water? Is it leaking? I mean, this can't be good.
This tunnel is actually a very dry tunnel during
This is a dry tunnel? Is this the way it always is?
There's always some water coming through the rock.
Not to worry is what you're saying.
Not to worry.
Water tunnel number 3 is so complicated, vast, and deep underground. It's been compared, in terms of engineering feats, to the Brooklyn Bridge and the Panama Canal. Officials here, like Mayor Michael Bloomberg, consider completion of the tunnel vital to the city's future.
You have to pray that we get a third tunnel done before anything bad happens.
We met him in one of the new tunnel's valve chambers, built a mere 25 stories below ground to withstand a nuclear blast. It's designed to give water tunnel number 3 a flexibility the old tunnels don't have.
As I understand it, this will provide a way to shut off one section and repair it and examine it.
Right. The valves to turn off are here. In the old tunnels, they put the valves down in the tunnel, so you couldn't get to them. Here, if you look, you can walk around them, you can work, you can close it off at both ends.
There's never been any maintenance on the 2 existing tunnels because they haven't been able to close the valves.
Why not?
Because they're afraid that if you closed them, what would happen if you couldn't reopen it? If we have
What
a
do you
third
mean you
tunnel-
couldn't reopen it?
Supposing a valve froze closed, and you couldn't get it open
And that's
again.
the fear, isn't it?
That is one of the fears, sure.
16 years ago, Harry Reasoner did a story on 60 Minutes called New York is Falling Apart, in which city engineer Paul Donnellan leveled with him about the condition of the old valves, which are the ones still in use today.
We've had numerous failures. The gears have broken, stems have broken, internal parts have broken.
It turned out that the metal used to make these valves had a fatal flaw.
All the critical equipment is made out of this material. And if it's under stress, it goes through a process called stress corrosion cracking. And it could give you a catastrophic failure.
Have you done studies of the possibility of something catastrophic happening?
If a tunnel were to collapse, first answer is there's no easy answer to what you would do to provide water for everybody in this city.
The only thing to do is plow ahead with tunnel number 3. These days, the work never stops. At dawn, when the graveyard shift heads out, the day shift is reporting for work.
We go down to work, it's dark, and we come up and it's on the verge of becoming dark.
The miners building tunnel number 3, and all tunnels in New York, call themselves sandhogs. They start and end their workday in a place called the Hog House, where they can grab a bite, change clothes, and clean up at the end of their shift. Every sandhog is a jack of all trades. They're all carpenters, mechanics, electricians, and of course, miners. In the tunnel, the work can be claustrophobic and dusty, and so noisy, a lot of the men have hearing loss. They're supposed to wear earplugs, but often they don't. Thousands of sandhogs have worked on tunnel number 3. Most are either Irish American or from the West Indies. It's been that way for generations.
Do most people come in through their family?
Pretty much all the sandhogs down here are have their father in the business or something like that.
I got a brother here too.
And you too?
Yeah, my father.
My father, my grandfather.
Father, grandfather?
That's my brother right there. Me and him are 4th generation.
4th generation. And did your father want you down here?
None of their fathers wanted their sons in it. My old man never wanted me in it.
But he brought you in.
Exactly, but once it gets in your blood, there's no other job like it.
Do you all love it?
I love it.
You really love it?
Yeah.
It's more than just love, it's also money. Most sandhogs make 6 figures, though it's something they don't like to talk about.
I hear you drive up in your Cadillacs.
Only if I'm driving to you.
Ryan McGinty is a college graduate. He gave up a white-collar job to work in the tunnel.
I worked in an office, 60 hours a week, no money. Not at all. And then I come down here and I like it, the people. It's a different world.
It's like a brotherhood.
Good guys.
When they began building tunnel number 3, the sandhogs still mined the way they had for centuries with explosives. or as the men call it, drill and blast. But now they have a powerful ally, a massive tunnel boring machine nicknamed the Mole. These men are fitting the face of the Mole with hardened steel wheels that will grind away at the bedrock and reduce it to just pebbles and dust, better known as muck, which is transported by conveyor belt to rail cars and then dumped onto other belts that lift it out of the tunnel. The Mole weighs 300 tons.
Now, how the heck did you get that machine down there?
This machine was working somewhere in, I believe it was working in Norway. They took it apart, shipped it across the ocean. It arrived at our site, and then at our site, they refurbished it.
They take it down in pieces, obviously.
Right, you cut it into pieces.
And then you build it down in the tunnel.
And then you put it back together like putting a big jigsaw puzzle back together. And you can see where the machine started actually turning into the rock.
And the machine makes the tunnel, bores it through as a circle, right?
The high-tech Mole works faster and with more precision than the sandhogs used to with explosives. The machine carves a perfectly round tunnel through the bedrock.
And it looks as good as a concrete lined tunnel.
And the Mole has dramatically speeded up the whole process.
This particular tunnel has been probably averaging about close to 100 feet a day. That's almost twice as much as we used to go with the drill and blast. It's also a lot safer.
This is a lot safer.
Because you don't have as many men working with the drills and the blasting as you did before.
The more fractured rock you have, the more dangerous the area is.
Eamon O'Donnell and his brother Jim followed their father into the tunnel more than 25 years ago.
When we started, there was people that died every year.
In those days, there was a cruel arithmetic. 23 men died, one for every mile of tunnel. But there hasn't been a fatality since 1997, and the Mole deserves most of the credit. And yet, in the weeks before our visit, one sandhog severed a thumb. Another was blinded in one eye.
People do lose appendages, because they just can't be aware of everything that's moving at, any given time.
And what about lung disease?
Everyone gets lung disease. You're going into an environment that dust is a byproduct of our production.
Do you have lung disease?
Hope not.
You don't know?
Not yet.
You don't get it tested?
If I was to take an educated guess, I would assume we are doing damage every day we're down there.
So far, half the tunnel has been excavated, and a 13-mile stretch is already providing water to the Bronx and Upper Manhattan. The section we were in will eventually bring water to Lower Manhattan once it meets up with the section under Central Park.
The tunnel going in that direction will eventually meet an existing place where it's ready to be connected.
And how do you know it's going to actually?
Because the guys who do the surveying do very well. Brooklyn and Queens Tunnel met. It was 5 miles, and we missed by about a half an inch, a quarter of an inch, in fact. It was less than a half an inch.
To save time, the sandhogs often end up eating their lunch right in the tunnel. And we joined them. After a while, it dawned on me, I was the only woman there.
I noticed there aren't any female sandhogs.
This is not a place for the average woman.
Did a woman ever try it?
Yeah, they tried it and was unsuccessful. Not being sure-footed, not being aware of what was happening.
But are all the jobs down here that physically demanding?
Yeah.
Every job down here.
There's a lot of guys that would never do this occupation either. There's guys that have came in, got a job, got down on a cage, went in, worked a week and quit. Said they'll never come back. So it's not so much a male and female thing, it's the nature of the work.
Is there a superstition about a woman in a tunnel?
It's bad luck.
Women in the tunnel is bad luck.
Yeah.
Does anybody believe it? Look at you. You look like you really think it's true.
He believes it.
He believes it.
With good luck, the whole tunnel will be completed by 2020. When the work began back in 1970, the prediction was very different.
When did you think the tunnel would be finished?
The project was supposed to take, I believe, about 15 to 20 years to complete.
The whole thing?
All of the stages.
We're not even anywhere near to being finished with it.
Well, lots of things have happened since then.
Some of the things that have happened, like the city facing bankruptcy in the mid-70s, slowed the tunnel's progress. But it's on a fast track now. And yet, most New Yorkers who walk above it every day don't even know it exists.
I know other construction workers, and they always talk with such pride about the skyscraper they put up or they worked on the bridge. You guys can never do that. I mean, you can't point to what you've done.
When we're done, you know, the manhole will cover over the shaft, and no one will ever know how that water got to their faucet. You know, we are the few people that understand, you know, the suffering and the loss of lives to make it happen. And you do have a sense of pride about that.
There are 7 million government workers in this country who are members of a union. Our story tonight is about one of the most powerful of those unions, District Council 37 in New York City. Thought to be a model of honesty and union democracy, it turns out instead that the New York District Attorney is now investigating whether it is overrun by crooks and thugs who've been rigging elections and stealing union dues money. But what is most remarkable about this story is that none of it would have come to light were it not for one man, a trash collector in New York City's Parks Department.
He's a 46-year-old college dropout and a career city laborer whose salary never went above $29,000 a year.
Raked leaves, raked trash, picked up garbage cans, drove the garbage truck, drove around, picked up the garbage in the city. Everything that's done in the park, I'm the guy that does it.
For 28 years.
Right. I'm the guy.
But now, Mark Rosenthal is the guy who's changed everyone's understanding of what was supposed to be one of the cleanest public employee unions in the country. District Council 37 is made up of 56 union locals, which together represent 120,000 city workers who depend on their union to get them a living wage. They're paid an average of about $25,000 a year, and they pay about $600 of that each year in union dues. They do the jobs that literally keep New York City functioning.
They clean bedpans and they clean office buildings and they take care of patients in hospitals and they do all of the clerical work that the city needs to keep the administration going. 22,000 clerical workers in a local.
Professor Stanley Aronowitz, a labor expert at the City University of New York, has studied DC 37 since it became a political power to reckon with back in the 1960s.
What principles did DC 37 stand for back then?
Civil rights, women's rights. This was a union that wrapped itself in the flag that had been raised by Martin Luther King, that had been raised by the civil rights movement.
But that was hardly the kind of union Mark Rosenthal encountered when he first decided to run for president of his local back in 1995. Right away, he began to receive death threats, and he was summoned to an emergency meeting by the then president of his local. The agenda? To kick Rosenthal off the ballot.
I'm freaking out. I can't believe this. This is DC 37. Here I am. And we're like the 1930s. All these guys playing like, you know, trying to intimidate us and scare us, right? Next thing you know, the boiler guy, he comes marching through the door, the pinky ring, the suit. Everybody's freaking out. They never see anything. It was like in Hollywood, like you're in Hollywood, like right from the movies, right? The guys are booing me. They're yelling, shut the up, or we'll teach you a lesson, right? I got chairs, and they're looking for weapons, and I'm in the middle of it, and guys are around me, surrounding me, and I'm in the middle of the room telling them this is nothing but organized crime.
And they succeeded in throwing Rosenthal off the ballot, but he did not give up.
I didn't like the idea that they threatened to kill me. I didn't really particularly like that.
Yeah.
And they fixed the election, and they thought I was like a guy from the park department, and they just like looked at me and says, he'll go away.
He did not go away. He ran again and was actually elected president of his local last summer. And when he arrived at DC 37 headquarters to take command, he found out that his local's treasury had been looted by its officers. He discovered bills for $90,000 Christmas parties, $10,000 catered lunches, mysterious payments to lawyers and consultants who did no work for the union. What's worse, DC 37's leadership didn't seem to give a damn, so Rosenthal went public on the radio.
This has been going on for 20 years. It's a known fact, both within the union, both within the government, and it has to be stopped.
He spoke at union meetings and rallies, telling anyone who'd listen about what was really going on at DC 37. We rode with Rosenthal in his beat-up station wagon to a city garage in the Bronx, where he met with some of the Parks Department workers who helped get him elected.
This man have stirred up enough bees in a nest
to get people worried about what's going on in the union.
I believe our union hasn't fought for us. It hasn't done anything for us. That's why we got Mark in.
No, I understand why you got Mark. But Mark says there's a lot of corruption.
Right to the top.
What, you say right to the top?
I believe it. You have one local spending just $90,000 on a Christmas party. How does that happen?
We're making a little bit of money while everybody's making the big bucks upstairs. Everybody got brand new cars, and what we doing? We getting paid what? Misery.
Who do you imagine is going to get indicted?
Probably most of DC 37.
That may be no exaggeration, because Rosenthal took his evidence on election rigging and embezzlement to the office of Manhattan DA Robert Morgenthau. Since Rosenthal went to Morgenthau, a variety of DC 37's top leaders have been suspended or expelled from the union for allegedly stealing members' dues money, like Charles Hughes, president of one of DC 37's largest locals. He wouldn't answer our phone calls, so we went to Charlie Hughes' home in Queens and found that he didn't want to talk to us there either.
I love you, but please cut it off. Would you do that favor?
Would you kindly turn it off?
Please.
We wanted to ask Mr. Hughes about this report by a union judicial panel which said that he had bilked his local for $684,000 in fraudulent overtime payments, $542,000 in meeting expenses, and, over a 2-year period, that he'd billed his local for $329,000 in personal American Express charges at stores like Victoria's Secret and Saks Fifth Avenue. Some of the local's money even found its way to a small town in Georgia, where Charlie Hughes was building this mansion for his retirement. Hughes' lawyer, Gerald Shargell, conceded that his client may have shown bad judgment, but he said that Hughes really believed that he deserved all that union money for the good work he'd done for DC 37 over the years, and that DC 37's leaders agreed.
Charlie Hughes walks in one day and says, "I'm entitled to the money." And they say, "Yes, you are. Here's the money. Here's a check." This was all done with the knowledge of the high-ranking officers, the people in charge at DC 37.
One of the people in charge is Executive Director Stanley Hill, DC 37's top official for the past 12 years. Hill was forced out of his job after it was revealed, with the help of Mark Rosenthal, that union officials wrote up thousands of phony ballots in 1996 to make it appear that the members had approved a new labor contract with the city. That contract froze workers' wages, meaning no raises, for 2 long years. But despite that, it was being pushed by Stanley Hill and by other DC 37 officials on behalf of the man on the right there, New York's Mayor Rudy Giuliani, who was trying to cut back the city's budget as he was running for re-election.
In all of the corruption at DC 37, the rigging of the contract vote, where does it rank?
Number one, without a doubt, number one. It's a betrayal of the membership. No union can do anything more hideous than taking away the vote from a member. That's the worst you can do. Everything else is expected. There's always corruption, but no one expects a union to steal the vote.
Rosenthal says it proved just how corrupt the leadership of the union had become. And Professor Stanley Aronowitz agrees.
Some of the leaders stuffed the ballot box because they honestly believed the members did not know best. And when you begin to think in a union that the members don't know best, and that gives you the right to stuff a ballot box, you've committed a high crime and misdemeanor, at least as far as union morality is concerned.
We had spoken to Stanley Hill shortly before he was removed from office. He not only denied that the contract vote had been rigged, but he also told us he knew nothing at all about any corruption in DC 37.
You know Mark Rosenthal?
Yes, I do.
You know what he calls District Council 37?
What's
I
that?
quote him, "a cesspool of corruption."
Well, he's wrong.
The district attorney's office, I can tell you, they genuinely believe that this union has turned corrupt.
This union is not corrupt.
Hill was later forced to admit the contract vote was a fraud, but the truth might never have surfaced had Rosenthal not convinced this man, Joe DeCanio, to come forward. DeCanio was president of a local and a fixture at DC 37 for years.
DeCanio told me anything that comes into this building is going to come out fixed. The people in charge decide the outcome and not the members.
DeCanio told Rosenthal that when union officials realized the contract was going to be rejected, those officials, and DeCanio was one of them, simply went downstairs to the mailroom in the basement of DC 37 and stuffed phony ballots into the ballot boxes to overturn the vote. And that was not the only crime DeCanio knew about.
Joe DeCanio was an encyclopedia of crime. Everything that happened in DC 37 he knows.
You were known as Turkey Joe.
Well, I don't even want to hear that. I mean, that's ridiculous. Yeah, you know, Turkey Joe. I don't know where that ever came from. You know, really.
Where the name came from was DeCanio's role as middleman in a kickback scheme. Every year, he brokered the purchase of tens of thousands of Thanksgiving turkeys as gifts for union members. But he artificially inflated the price the locals paid for the birds, and then he split the illegal profits with other local presidents.
What'd you make?
Well, I had to give back a lot.
What'd you make?
I swear I don't know. But I know I gave back, you know, a lot of it to the local presidents.
Why'd you give it back?
Of course, they wanted a kickback.
A few days after DeCanio talked to us, he cut a deal with the DA. He pled guilty to stealing at least $50,000 in members' dues money through that turkey scam. And he agreed to cooperate with the DA's further investigation.
How in the world did you persuade him to come here before he went to the DA and sit down and talk?
Oh, for about 4 or 5 weeks, I was working on him. I became friendly with him, and every morning I would like apprise him. I was going to the district attorney and say it's too bad that you're going to do a lot of time, and you ran the turkey scam. And I just told him that it's wrong what you did. And I said to him, as the scandal kept building up, I said, you're going to be a goat.
And the scandal continues to build. DC 37's parent union, the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, has taken over DC 37 and launched its own corruption investigation. And some top nervous union officials are still waiting to hear from DA Robert Morgenthau, who's expected to announce major criminal indictments in the near future. Of course, what's so extraordinary about this is that it might never have come about if not for that unlikely fella from the Parks Department, Mark Rosenthal.
Just last June, you were picking up leaves, picking up trash in parks like this one in New York City. Now, looks like you're going to bring down the leadership of the whole union. Satisfied?
They deserved to be taken out. They were corrupt, they were no good, and they were only harmful to the workers, and they deserved to get their walking papers.
Andy Rooney, of course, is our resident curmudgeon, but tonight, he really rocks the boat.
I don't care what the business is, every business has a show. I noticed the National Boat Show was opening at the Coliseum here yesterday. We went over there earlier in the week when they were setting it up. I never get used to seeing a yacht on a New York City street. Having a boat show on land doesn't make a lot of sense, but it does give work to a lot of people. What would you guess it takes, the number of unions?
We have 17 unions in the building.
I'm a Teamster. Riggers. Iron worker.
Oh, you're a riggers.
Yes.
That
Local 829, stagehands.
Stagehand?
Yeah.
You're a rigger?
I'm a carpenter.
Holy Christmas, I know your name.
What are you doing?
Well, we're trying to get the boat show put in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you working with? Which crew?
Yeah, with the trucking.
You're a Teamster?
Teamster, yeah.
Exhibition of boys, local 829.
Resilient floor covers, local 2287.
What union you belong to?
177.
What is that?
That's a local 177.
Local what?
Local 177, name of the local is.
A rug cutters union? What?
No, officer, as I should say, security guard.
What's the name of your union?
177, Court Street in Brooklyn.
That's a number. What's the name of your union?
That's what the name is. That's the 177. That's what it is.
That's the only name?
That's the only name.
It's not 177 security
guard? No, it
guard?
ain't like Lansdale, McRoberts. See, I'm working for McRoberts today.
It's nothing like the Carpenters Union, 177?
No. Just the regular, that's what the name of the union is. That's the name.
That's a number. That's not a name.
I know, that's what they gave it.
For the Drapery Union?
I'm the Draper, Carpenters, Expos, everybody's there.
Oh, you got a lot of them to put this curtain up, huh?
Right, all different unions.
How many unions would it take to put that sign up, would you think?
Well, I would say 3.
If President Reagan really wants to do something about unemployment in this country, he ought to insist on more boat shows.
Occasionally in our lives, if we're lucky, we run across a teacher we can never forget, a teacher who made a real difference in our lives. By all accounts, Lenny Roseman is that kind of teacher. and she's teaching a course that everybody wants to take.
Okay. Sex.
Intercourse.
Boy. Baby. Penis. Excitement. Vagina.
Her course is about that old taboo subject, and what Mrs. Roseman's kids get, in addition to a lively force in the classroom, is unvarnished, plain talk about the basics. But her objective is to convince her students that there's more to sex than just sex.
Reputation.
What makes it different? What makes your class different than any of the others?
I make sex and sexuality as broad and as realistic, as humanistic as I possibly can stretch it. And I know that there is so much more to life than just their penises and vaginas. And that's what they find out in the course.
Lenny Roseman's been teaching sex education here at Beach Channel High School in the Rockaway section of New York City for the past 14 years. She operates with a sense of mission, and when you hear the alarming statistics, you realize why. More than half of all teenagers today have had intercourse by the time they are 17, and only a third of those use contraception. Each year, more than 100,000 teenage girls under 17 have babies. And for 15% of those, it's their second or third child. About a third of teenage pregnancies end in abortion. And although you would assume that among parents, friends, and teachers, our kids today would be sexually well informed, the fact is that nearly half of all teens today haven't had any sex education at all.
Fishes, they don't have sex. They have reproduction. Their eggs flies to a female. You know, I mean, you know what I'm saying, right?
But we really want to talk about people, don't we? I mean, don't we really want to get this down to us?
Lenny Roseman believes that she can make a difference in the lives of these kids. In fact, she's been so successful at it that she's considered the role model for sex education teachers in the New York City school system.
Is that what you're saying sex is? Is that what you guys are saying sex is? You're disagreeing? Okay, hold up. We'll come back to you.
It's something natural.
What is it natural? That means you grow it in garden.
No, you grow it in yourself.
It's something you grow it in yourself.
I want to know what you mean by having.
Thank you. Lisa, what does she mean?
She means like when two people combined into one.
You are absolutely right. Sex is the physical joining between two people that can sometimes result in a new life. Yeah? We begin with ground rules. And I will tell them that they are free to say anything in this class that they want to say. Now, if a student will say something like, are we going to discuss penises? I'll say to them, what would you like to discuss about penises? And I'll say, well, it's, what is it? Do you want to know physiologically? Do you want to know anatomically? Do you want to know the functions, the purposes? I mean, what is it that you want to know? I'm here, I'll answer it.
This isn't the kind of class you want to cut. This is the thing you look forward to going to. I mean, the stuff you learned in this class wasn't like social studies where you memorize dates that you'll never use. This was stuff that's up to date, current, real life things that you're going to use and need, and that you do use and need. The day you're learning them, and the day before you learn them, you need this stuff.
She taught you things that you needed to know, not just...
It wasn't just all sex.
Right, and that was it. And that was the only topic of the class. She taught you a lot of other things.
Don't put yourself into a car. If you're a female, you don't get into a car with 6 guys all by yourself just because they're offering you a ride home.
Mrs. Roseman feels it's also essential that her kids get a much broader perspective on life, that they learn how to make common sense decisions about things they're going through now.
Any girl, anytime, went out on a date, came home, a problem back at the house. How did you learn to say, this is not what I want to happen to me right now?
I address him and I say, no, I don't want to do this. And if he doesn't understand, I get out of the car and I leave.
All right.
I call my dad and I tell him to pick me up.
Okay, what do you think about that? One of the most important things that you can get out of this class is the ability to think, to reason, to know who's telling you what, not to believe everything you hear, because not everything you hear is so. Well, the kids on the street say, or if you want to get rid of pimples, oh my goodness, are they still saying that you should have sex to get rid of pimples? Let's talk about what pimples are. And we talk about hormones. That's why you have pimples. Let me tell you about your hormones.
At least one of the lessons she teaches is a bonus, the example of a good marriage. Lenny and her husband Saul Roseman have been married for 17 years, the second marriage for both. Between them, they have 5 grown children. He's a dean at the high school. When they can manage it, the Rosemans try to get away and have lunch on the boardwalk just a few blocks from the school.
Do you see a difference in the kids today and the kids 10 years ago?
Yes, I do. I think they are bringing more myths, more misconceptions. Maybe it's the soaps. I don't know what it is.
You would think that there would be more information available today than 10 years ago.
But there isn't. See, there's more what I call exploitation. But there is not more information for them at all.
Out in the street, they feel like if you have a boyfriend or girlfriend, they feel like if you don't have sex, then a relationship is not worth anything. You know, but Ms. Roseman taught us that there's other ways of, you know, showing your affection for a person besides sex.
You go to a math class, you learn how to add and subtract and multiply and divide. You go to an English class, you learn how to read and spell and write. You come to this class, what do you learn how to do?
You learn how to deal with yourself and what's going on with you and your friends. And to deal with the outside world.
Yeah. Give me an example. How you say you learn how to deal with yourself.
Okay. When she says, like, about your values, like, most of us didn't really know what our values were and everything. This class helps me get a sense of what my morals and values are, because some people, they really don't know what a moral is or what your values are. Because, like, your morals and your values make up your personality and, you know, the role you play in society. And she does it in a way that you don't really, she's not going to say, oh, we're going to learn about our morals and our values. She does it.
It's like a fun way of doing it. Yeah.
How many girls here think that guys have to act tough? Why do you think so, Nestle?
Because guys supposed to act tough.
Why?
Jose, did you think you had to act tough because you were a guy?
Yeah, like walking down 5'4", you have to act tough.
For teens, peer pressure has always been a big deal. Wherever she can, Mrs. Roseman tries to minimize it.
And we talk about the pressure on boys. I know. By the time you're 10 years old, when you're on the street corner, you had to have sexual intercourse with at least 45 to 75 women, right? And they laugh. And I'll say, is there pressure out there? Yes, there is pressure out there. So you lie a little. And the kids will say, oh, we lie a lot.
In addition to her classroom duties, Mrs. Roseman is the cheerleading coach. The kids say that they see her as a friend, that she knows how they feel.
Teens are teens. They all have the same needs and the same wants, and they want to zero in on these things. To be grown up, to be young adults, to be able to make decisions, to be able to feel worthwhile, to be able to feel like I'm a somebody. I'm not a nothing. I really count. I'm special to someone. These things have gone on. They haven't changed.
Yeah! That was so cool. If you forget everything else this term that we learned from the beginning, what one thing will you remember?
One thing that we remember is that these are our bodies and not anyone else's, and we will not abuse them or let anyone else abuse them.
Mary, that was terrific. That was the most important thing. Okay, group 2.
We learned always remember to use condoms, which prevents STDs. Our bodies are incredible. Teenage pregnancy, babies are having babies, and what are we gonna do about it? The responsibilities of taking care of babies and different types of birth control.
Isn't there an argument that if you're going to have this kind of class, that's what young kids are going to go out and do? If you have a sex education class, they're going to go out and have sex.
But no, this class will give you the facts to base your decision on. I mean, there comes a point in your life where you're going to have to make a decision where you're going to do what you're going to do or you're not going to do. And I mean, having sex is one of those decisions. Isn't it best that we base those decisions on facts and not stuff that we're going to pick up off the streets?
What would you say to somebody who would say, well, maybe that's okay for the big city. Maybe that's okay for kids in New York or Chicago or Los Angeles or some other large urban area, but we don't have problems like that here. We don't need this here. What do you say?
I'd say, what kind of problems do you have? And if they said to me, we don't have any, I would say that that's very difficult for me to believe. Everybody needs to know. Everybody should know. Sex is part of life. I mean, I tell that to my students, you know, that when this course is over, you just don't give your book into the closet and say, okay, finished. I mean, this is it for life. You're going to make decisions all your life. You're going to be thinking about yourself all your life. You just don't pop it away.
Teens today seem to have more problems than ever. If they are sexually active, they have the risk of sexually transmitted diseases, things like herpes, diseases they so far have no cures for. And even though at present there are fewer than 1,000 known cases of AIDS among teens, surely if the disease keeps spreading as it is, this will be the first generation in our time to have the threat of death attached to sex.
What kind of a song is it, Chris?
No, they're just talking about, like, how you get it. They're not making fun of the disease. Like, they're, like, just, like, making fun of how you get it and everything. Like, homosexuals and everything.
Homosexuals? Uh-huh. Is that the only way people get AIDS, Chris?
No, I'm saying that's the one part of it that they're making fun of.
What about the IV drug abusers?
Yeah, the needle abusers.
Mm-hmm. What about that? The junkies? What about having sex with somebody who just experimented, you know, a couple of years ago?
You can still get it. They can still get it, yeah. They're vulnerable to catching the virus, too.
And they're not homosexual, Chris. I got a feeling like that. You really think that this is the only way that people can get AIDS. And for me, I feel like I don't want Chris walking out of this room thinking that.
No, I know that. I know
Also,
oh, okay.
It's just that they see what the song is about.
Mm-hmm.
What do you want the kids to take away from your class?
Oh, a sense of how wonderful they are as individuals, how much there is in life that they can do, that having sexual intercourse is not the wherewithal of life's existence, to be interested and to be eager to get as much as they can out of life without limiting themselves or hurting themselves, not to be self-destructive. They have choices. You have choices about being self-destructive. And to try to be the best people that they can possibly be.
Charles Carroll isn't the only one around here who goes on the road. So does Andy, although goes on the street may be a little bit more accurate.
If it often seems to you as though the whole world is rotten, let me tell you a story about someone doing something good. Early every morning, as many as 100 homeless, jobless men who have been roaming the streets of New York City all night bring the empty cans and bottles they've collected to this redemption center. It's just 5 blocks from my office. I've passed the place 1,000 times, and I decided to go in and see what was going on there. There may be 200,000 cans in here, and every one of these cans and bottles is worth a nickel to the person who brought it back. That's $10,000 worth of nickels you're looking at. The best in the bottle return business is a young man named Chris. That's Chris coming down the street there with his night's take. If this game was baseball, Chris would have $1 million contract because there's no one in the whole world as good at finding and bringing back empty bottles and cans as Chris is. You had a pretty good night, didn't you?
Oh, yeah, very good.
About how many you got, you figure?
About $500, $600.
Is that right? Well, are you homeless? You have a home?
I was homeless at one time, so I just got into this and I realized it could be very lucrative, so I just started doing it, and I find that people were throwing away more cans than you could actually collect.
This is a non-profit operation called We Can. It gives permanent jobs to about 20 people who count and sort the returns. You can understand that getting cans returned is not the beer and soft drink company's favorite part of their business, because every nickel they take in as a deposit and don't have to pay back is profit. A good guy named Guy Polhemus runs the Redemption Center almost as a crusade. Is this nickel deposit a good thing for the bottlers and the soft drink and beer companies?
Well, when you say a good thing in terms of what? It's not a good...
Do they get the nickel?
Yeah, they get the nickel and they keep it. It's a good thing if no one brings their empties back.
What percentage of empties come back?
I'd say about 25% at the most come back.
This has been a good thing for them then.
For the bottlers, yes, it's been a cash cow. It's been a windfall because it's a substantial amount of money.
Who's good and who's bad giving the nickel back?
Well, Anheuser-Busch is good. They were originally very bad, but they are...
These are all
these used
Budweiser.
To be, right, these used to be street trash before we can. Today, they're street gold to a homeless person.
How is Coke and how is Pepsi-Cola?
Coke and Pepsi-Cola are pretty good. They're pretty good.
What are these cans up there, all those on top of the trailer?
All those cans up there are a mixture of Colt 45, Rolling Rock, Old English 800, Pabst, Rheingold, Schaefer, Ballantine. These are all distributors who refuse to pick up and pay the nickel under the New York State Bottle Bill Act.
Collecting them is not the problem.
No.
That's the least of the problem.
That's the least of the problem. It's getting them to pay the nickel. And it's just a nickel, but it adds up.
You see, there are some good people left in the world, and you can see them sometimes. Even right here on 60 Minutes.
There's a battle being fought for public spaces all over the country. In no place is it more apparent than in one of the grandest spaces of all, New York's Grand Central Station. Homeless people with no place to go claim it as a refuge. Travelers with places to go find the homeless an unsightly embarrassment. But somehow, the grand old station, its glory long gone, manages to accommodate everyone.
Grand Central Terminal, the next station stop.
The terminal once was called the greatest enclosed space in the country, an architectural masterpiece. In its prime, it greeted presidents and world statesmen and international grand dames. Its name, Grand Central, and its trains, like the 20th Century Limited, captured the romance and elegance of an age. At dawn, with the terminal still closed, that age is alive, at least in your mind. It's easy to imagine a scene of bustling Pullman porters and matched leather luggage and passengers bound for distant California. But now, from its early morning opening to its late night closing, squalor overwhelms the old terminal. At 5:30 in the morning, when the terminal opens, grimness waits at the gate.
Let's go.
The first arrivals are not travelers, but the shuffling legions of New York's homeless. The terminal's melancholy gatekeeper is Frank Leotta, a cop who's seen too much of this world.
You in touch with the world, miss? Let's go. Come on. See if you get all this stuff out. You gotta get it moved.
Officer Leotta's concerns are simple. Get this human driftwood through one day, one emergency, one meal at a time.
They'll be serving breakfast soon over at St. Agnes. See, these are some of the problems. Here's a homeless man, carries all his belongings with him. It's unreal. Just all yours. I was in Korea 25, 30 years ago. It's just like Korea was. It's devastation.
Grand Central is the gateway to the world where many a life crosses paths.
Conductor Flash Fallon comes in from suburbs plain and fancy with the station's morning commuters.
25th to Grand Central. Local train to New York.
He maintains a remnant of Grand Central's old dignity, treating everyone on the inbound local as if they were passengers on the 20th Century Limited.
Local train to New York. Watch your step getting on, please. Watch your step, please.
Flash is of the old school.
Take your time, miss. Take it easy.
Be courteous. Try to be on time.
All aboard.
And they're off. New York's workhorses are out of the gate. For a few hours each morning, this wave of commuters controls the station. But they don't even have time to soak in the sunlight that streams across the terminal floor. Each too busy watching out for the horse in front, saving a few breaths for the mad dash to the wire. The prize is just a place on the escalator up. Keeping these horses moving is the job of 6,000 Metro North employees. The conductors say it can be a thankless job.
You're the whipping boy. You're the one out there. You're the first line troops.
People show their nasty habits on the train?
Yes. Yes.
For example?
feet on the seat, refuse to take your feet off the seat.
I got one guy picking his feet on the seats. Took his shoes and socks off instead of picking his toes. I said, give me a break, pal.
And that's civil compared to this.
A lady was complaining about something that had happened to her, you know, and that some kind of substance hit her in the head or something. You know, I walked back into the car finally to see what was going on because he said the lady was pretty incensed and somebody had pulled like a vile act of nature on her, you know.
A vile act of nature.
But I don't know if I could say what he did on TV.
We say it. We'll decide. We decided. You can find out what he said on our cutting room floor. Upstairs, Officer Leota's job never ends.
Come on, let's go. Inside.
His orders are keep the homeless moving. Even if the law says the homeless have as much right as the traveling public to be there, it doesn't say the station has to let them sit on the floor.
Let's go. Get up. Let's go.
Station Master Michael Murphy has to share his terminal with the mad and the sad.
This terminal is here for the commuters. That's what we're here for. And if they have to come in and watch behind them, in front of them, and to the side because of what's going on, I think that's a disgrace. 30 years ago, it never was allowed. You didn't dare put a cigarette out on the floor here. Not in those days.
Now I hate to tell you what's on the floor.
Now you take a look and you see what's going on right now.
The station is filled with scams and scoundrels and skirmishes for turf rights.
This is like coming into a den of iniquity.
Not me.
Break it up.
I'm not leaving.
You got the ones that are homeless. Then you got the ones that are mental. Then you got the homeless that are complete felons. They sell crack. They go out and mug people. They're a bunch of thieves. They're all young kids. And they're built like horses. 2 male blacks ejected came main concourse station forces.
To help see past the grime and despair, tour guide Val Ginter tells noontime tales about Grand Central's grandeur.
Also, Grand Central Terminal is a monument to the heritage of railroads. From the floor to the ceiling is 125 feet high. You can put a 12-story building in here if you wanted. Another thing, notice the big arched windows out there. The arched windows that we saw on 42nd Street. Not Art Nouveau and it wasn't Art Deco, but it was the kind of thing that, this was a very modern design. You know, there could be a lot more frou-frou inside that concourse there. That was quite modern.
The lofty concourse, the soaring arched windows, this marble double staircase have made this place a movie maker's dream. But it was pure dream, never the way Hollywood portrayed it. With Pullman Porters, the picture of black contentment. The movies are lunchtime morale boosters for Grand Central's employees. Quaint and phony memories.
All aboard! Train leaving on track 27.
The evening rush. The commuters are back.
The quickest way to get to Rye.
The station goes into reverse. Get these workhorses back to their suburban stables.
Come on, sir, look at the board right there.
Above all, Grand Central is theater, New York's best attended public theater. Today, it is a loosely choreographed ballet to the music of Johann Sebastian Bach.
No, sir, 553, you're on track 31. Watch it.
They're always in a hurry, everybody's in a hurry. Always in a hurry. Myself, when I first started working here, I got lost in the station.
Okay, where do we go?
Go to information, I'll give you time and track.
That's the subway information. You have to check with the gentleman on the other side.
I'm Metro North information's on the other side of the booth, mister. Sorry.
I don't know which track.
Every day I go home, I can look on the board myself. I had a customer here the other day, would you believe it? Fairfield? Fairfield. I says, can I help you, sweetheart? Would you believe me? It was a guy, Fairfield.
Yeah, Heineken, please.
Grand Central's biggest moneymaker is rush hour refreshment.
Will that be all, sir? 2 Heinekens.
Commuting is thirsty work.
Downstairs. You're not gonna make it. You got 1 minute. Don't even try it. All the way
The commuters exit stage left. Time to bring on the nighttime blues. The broken spirits assemble. They shuffle across the shining marble stage. They are the actors now, perhaps waiting for Godot.
And that's where you look. That's where you look.
Each evening, volunteers from Wall Street give a little back.
Don't fight over. There's lots more.
Faces of despair, submission.
Yeah, come on, squad.
1:30 and terminal's closed.
Even this refuge has its closing time. At 1 each morning, the police begin their reluctant ritual of moving the homeless out. They clear the main concourse, then head down to the bowels, searching for the station's phantoms.
You ain't allowed here, so come on.
If they cleaned this whole place out, between the waiting room, the whole terminal, upper, lower level, all the tunnels, up from here up to 125th Street on down, you probably end up with 400 or 500 people.
Come on, Pop, get your stuff together.
It's hard to come here knowing that you're going to see a lot of the same faces that you saw the day before, and they're still going to be here.
You okay?
Or they might be carried out on a stretcher, and you may never see them again.
You all right, Pop?
On the 10 floors down below, there are abandoned trains, thousands of nooks and crannies,
Come on, pal, get your stuff together. Let's go.
and 56 miles of steam tunnels.
We sleep in every place, on top of the tunnels, under the tunnels, on top of the steam pipes, under the steam pipes, in the elevator shafts, everywhere you can look.
This place is not very safe. You know, it's not a good place for you to sleep. All right, I don't want to see you down here again.
The advice is heartfelt but futile. Everyone knows that when the gates come down, some have been locked in, others locked out. The play is over for the day. The actors are exhausted. It's 1:31 a.m., 4 hours of rest for this grand station. And the whole awful, wonderful drama begins yet again.
New York City is a place where attitude and strong opinions are in the DNA. New Yorkers might not agree on much, but there's one thing on which millions of them do agree. The subway is a mess. Trains are packed, breakdowns and delays are routine. Some say it's gone off the rails. After an actual derailment last year injured more than 40 people, the governor declared a state of emergency. When it first opened more than a century ago, the New York City subway was considered a feat of American engineering. Now, it's another example of the country's ailing infrastructure. Luckily, there's a man with a plan, an Englishman in New York, who proposes the city's largest infrastructure expenditure since the 1950s. More on that in a moment. First, if you have never ridden the sprawling New York City subway, welcome aboard. When the trains are moving, there's no better way to get around New York City than on the subway. These 400-ton behemoths crisscross the underbelly of the city, zipping through a web of tunnels deep underground and on elevated tracks high in the air. Catch one in the right light, and it can look like a model train running through a toy cityscape. There's more than 600 miles of track, uptown, downtown, out to the boroughs. Like the city itself, the subway never sleeps. It runs 24/7. Nearly 6 million people ride the trains each day, often accompanied by a soundtrack for the mad dash to the doors. The cost at the gate, $2.75. For that fare, sometimes you get a show, whether you want it or not. other times a view, the Empire State Building. There, in the distance, the Statue of Liberty. And here on the subway, the huddled masses yearning to breathe free. Ridership is near a 70-year peak, but after years of neglect, deferred maintenance, and financial mismanagement, the system can't handle the strain.
Please stand by.
Last year, passengers got trapped, desperate on a broken-down train for almost an hour in sweltering heat. Earlier this year, a ceiling collapsed on a platform in Brooklyn. One passenger suffered a concussion. In September, torrential rains poured inside a Manhattan station. It all adds up to a mosaic of misery, exacerbated by the heat, the rats, and incessant delays. Enter Andy Byford, a world-renowned Mr. Fix-It for troubled subways. He's the new president of transit for the Metropolitan Transportation Authority, shorthand the MTA, the state agency that runs the trains.
This has to be the mother of all transit challenges.
It is. And the way I look at it, Bill, is someone has to take this on. You know, if every transit professional said, oh, it's too tough, I'm not going to risk my career in going there, nothing would happen. I'm prepared to give it a go.
He's certainly got the credentials. Byford grew up a train enthusiast in Britain in the city of Plymouth. He worked his way up in the London Tube, ran mass transit in Sydney, and most recently led a turnaround in Toronto. The MTA brought him on board in January to stop the hemorrhaging and resurrect the system.
I pinch myself sometimes because how did this spotty kid from Plymouth suddenly end up running New York City Transit? But it's a dream.
Well, some people would call that a nightmare.
When I left Toronto, there was a mix of people saying congratulations or are you crazy? But I like a challenge. If we can turn this around, then it will be the most satisfying period of my career. I mean, it will be the pinnacle.
Byford seems undaunted. He proudly wears his name tag for all disgruntled commuters to see. He expects to be held accountable. Like everyone else down here, he just wants the trains to run on time.
I'm Andy Byford, I'm the president of Transit.
With his friendly neighbor approach, he's that rare executive who does his own market research, routinely popping up unannounced to query customers.
How do you find the service? This is what I like to see.
Motivate workers.
Aim high.
I will.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for what you do. How are you?
And take stock of the subway.
You know, we've got to up our game and get better at the basics. Number one.
And if all that glad-handing weren't enough,
excuse me,
he also doesn't mind getting those hands dirty.
You really do. Just pick up the trash.
Absolutely. I'm not going to walk by that. So things like that.
He's fastidious down to the last crumb.
Things like
trash.
Yeah, get rid of it. I don't want to see unclean stations or messy stations.
Good luck on that one.
Yep. A group of maintainers.
Half-eaten bagels are the least of his worries. Byford was hired to shake up the tired old system. He crafted a grand modernization plan that calls for hundreds of station renovations, thousands of new subway cars, and more state-of-the-art computer signal controls that can run trains faster and more frequently.
It sounds like you're going for broke.
I've said in the past that's what we have to do, not to tweak this system. That it needs way more than that. It needs to be a comprehensive, top-to-bottom modernization of every aspect of our operations. Why shouldn't we be on a par with London, with Hong Kong, with Shanghai, with Singapore? This is New York, for goodness sake.
But the MTA's track record is not world-class. Computerizing just one line took about a decade. Byford says with his planned efficiencies, he can upgrade nearly the entire system in that amount of time. And that would be the easy part. The hard part, how to pay for it. He calculates his plan could cost a whopping $40 billion.
How are you going to come up with that kind of money?
Well, I mean, I leave that to smarter people than me. I leave that to the politicians.
But the politicians are squabbling. New York Mayor Bill de Blasio wants to raise money by taxing millionaires. Governor Andrew Cuomo by charging vehicles squeezing into congested Midtown Manhattan. If money and politics weren't enough, Byford says he's going to need a third thing, the patience of New Yorkers, who will have to put up with subway lines shutting down for repair.
Any one of those things would be next to impossible to achieve. How are you going to achieve all three?
by British charm. It will not be quick. It will not be cheap, and it certainly won't be easy. So my message to New Yorkers is there's no gain without a bit of pain. This will be worth it.
Tell that to the 400,000 people who take the L train every day, which runs between Brooklyn and Manhattan. The line is facing an imminent 15-month shutdown for repairs. Riders gave Byford an earful.
So my question is,
how would I get to work?
It's hell right now.
One track on West 4th.
The most ambitious element of Byford's plan is ripping out and replacing the antiquated signaling system that controls traffic on the tracks. This is what he inherited, equipment that's been operating since the Great Depression. This machine, more than 100 years old. We saw operator Rakia Spady move switches on the tracks around her station by pushing and pulling its antique levers.
This is 2018, and this thing was built
before we were born.
Long before.
Long before. But I mean, I call it old trusty. It's moving a train.
In this age of GPS, this low-tech map marked the approximate location of nearby trains.
So you see how that green dot is up there behind the blue dot? It's still in transit. So it's moving into the station, and now he stopped.
But you don't know exactly where on the track that train is. No.
This is New York City. They don't know exactly where the trains are at any given time in the subway system.
Yeah, that's what we need to transform, and it's about accelerating towards a modern signaling system. That would give us precise, absolute identification of where trains are, and it would enable you to move trains up safely closer together, ergo more trains.
The old-fashioned system requires intensive care. When parts break, which at their age happens often, this busy repair shop springs into action. Like doctors, mechanics examine the patients. Some sound like they're on their last breaths. Many of the companies that made these components are long gone, so workers here have to manufacture their own replacement parts.
I have 50,000 employees working with me as a big team. We've got old processes, old systems that we use, and yet my miracle workers keep that going every day.
34th Street, Haverhill Square, Bronx.
Change can't come soon enough for frontline employees like train operators and conductors who face an increasingly aggravated public.
It's a lot that we deal with.
We brought together a small group of veteran workers for what turned into a group therapy session. Melvin Wright is a third-generation train operator.
Pulling into a station, people tapping their watch at me, you know, like reminding me we're late.
That's real life stuff. That's what goes on.
Cheryl Nicholson is a conductor of 29 years. She says there's no shortage of bad behavior and bad attitudes.
I used to cry.
Because of what people would say to you.
People were so mean.
And they say it's gotten worse. In August, passengers pummeled a conductor in Brooklyn after the train was forced to skip a few stops. No one here excuses the violence, but we were surprised to hear this.
They're frustrated, and I get it.
They have reason to be frustrated?
They do have a reason. If your job depends on you to be there, and your boss said, you know, this is the third time, Mr. Whitaker, what are you thinking? Oh, that conductor's gonna get it.
It was the MTA.
Yeah, so we get it.
Nothing irritates the traveling public more than delays. On Andy Byford's watch, on-time performance has ticked up slightly, though many riders say they haven't noticed. Byford says he's focused on the basics. He's using $800 million in emergency funds from the state to shift maintenance into overdrive on the tracks and in the garage, where subway cars are being overhauled at the fastest pace in a decade.
So 30.
Remember Rakia Spady's 100-year-old clunker? Her equipment is getting a long-planned upgrade.
That's a copy. It looks good on the board.
Of course, we can't do a story about the subway without hearing from passengers. To get a quick read on their unvarnished opinions, we went to the MTA's futuristic-looking Rail Control Center, where workers monitor and manage train traffic system-wide. There, we met Haley Dragoo, a social media millennial who works in
the Twitter division.
The Twitter division.
The Twitter division. But
the Twitter division gets about 2,000 tweets a day, many from irate passengers.
What's the purpose of having a schedule if you never abide by it?
But most of the tweets are from people who just want to know why they can't get to school, work, or home on time.
We just kind of try and put ourselves in these people's shoes and try and answer them as best we can and as accurately as we can. And then we hope that that made their day a little better, or at least more clear.
The subway riding public is kind of fed up right now.
And I get that. So our job is crystal clear. We need to turn this around for New Yorkers. And I absolutely want New Yorkers to start feeling by the end of this year, it's definitely getting better.
By the end of this year?
By the end of this year.
Wrenching this marvel of the 20th century into the 21st will take a virtuoso performance. New Yorkers are an impatient lot. They want things fixed yesterday. Andy Byford knows he's on the biggest stage before the toughest crowd on earth.
You've got a lot on your to-do list.
Yeah, one or two things. But that's what I love. It keeps me busy. And the upside is also I get to live in New York. What's not to like?
Mr. Rooney and I have something of a special announcement to make tonight. Those of us who live or work here in New York regret to inform the rest of the nation that the city is now full. Anyone wishing to enter will have to wait until someone else leaves, and no packages, please. The island of Manhattan is 12 miles long and only 2 miles wide at its widest point. There are 4 million of us living or working here, making our way among the little cracks between the buildings. On a clear day, there are 509 miles of streets in New York. According to the traffic department, an average of 650,000 cars or trucks enter the city every day. They don't know how many are already here. If you average the Volkswagens and the trucks, you have to figure at least 22 feet per vehicle. That means, taking the lowest figure possible, that there are 3,000 miles of cars here, bumper to bumper, and only 500 miles of streets. This is a true and puzzling statistic and must account for the parking lot business. A week ago Sunday, 15 inches of snow fell on Manhattan, filling those openings between the buildings. It has made everything very difficult. The trouble with snow in New York City is, when you push it out of your way, you're pushing it into someone else's way. A lot of people think of New York merely as an entertainment center or as the location of the central offices for a lot of big businesses. It has become apparent since the snowfall that New York is also a big producer, and what we are making most of here is garbage. You talk about know-how. We know how to make garbage like no place else on earth. With transportation stalled and mail deliveries curtailed, we have been unable to get the garbage out of town. And it, too, is vying for space with the cars and the pedestrians. We have very pushy garbage. There's some talk now of building a launch pad here and shooting the garbage into space. This way, we could gradually throw New York away and sometime in the future, start all over. But for the time being, we're sorry to say, New York is full. Don't come here, we'll come to you.
When Tom Wolfe wrote The Right Stuff, a book about test pilots and astronauts, just about everyone loved it. Now he's written another book about architecture that could be subtitled The Wrong Stuff. Its real title is From Bauhaus to Our House, and a lot of people, especially architectural critics, hate it. But love it or hate it, it's selling like Rubik's Cubes. Tom Wolfe may be considered by some to be every inch a dandy. He stalks his East Side New York neighborhood like an immaculate white Persian cat. But he's neither Persian nor a New Yorker. He's a transplanted Virginian who's become an eminent and controversial social critic, examining us through the things we own, our art, our motor cars, our high technology, and most recently, our architecture, our big city skyscrapers. Wolfe finds it a strange irony that capitalist organizations, including CBS, have chosen a style of architecture that has its roots in something quite alien.
We're looking down the Time Life building, Exxon, Celanese, J.C. Penney. These are all tributes to the aesthetic vision of a handful of young architects, Germany and Holland in the early 1920s, who were working for socialist governments, building and designing housing for workers. And here we see it, steel, glass, no ornament, straight lines, rigid right-angle geometry. They have to have a flat top because that's what worker housing had. To have a pitched roof was bourgeois. These buildings house some of the most gigantic corporations in the world. They're all in worker housing, pitched up 50, 60, 70 stories high.
This forest of skyscrapers not only blots out the sky, what it doesn't tear down, it obscures. Whatever remnants of more romantic architecture remain can only be seen by peeking through the few remaining cracks. New York from the heavens is unmistakably New York, but less and less so. The school of architecture that insists upon soaring cigar boxes has imposed itself on every big city. So it could be Dallas or Houston or Atlanta or Chicago or Minneapolis or Detroit. It may be status symbolism, it may be edifice envy. The nightmare of the constant traveler is to drive past one of these and not know what city, what state, even what country you find yourself in. Square, glass, concrete, and steel anonymity. The change in a century has been extraordinary. This is Manhattan from the Brooklyn Bridge 100 years ago. And from the same camera position today, this. And just 25 years ago, we went from the old New York Produce Exchange, framing the statuary of the U.S. Customs House, to this rather plain office building. Both the Produce Exchange, now gone, and the Customs House, still standing but threatened, were scorned by the modernists.
They believed that for a building to have an ornate top, even a pitched roof, even with a heavy slate roof, represented the crowns of the European nobility. So tops had to go. Masonry, just a stone face of a building, represented the false front of the bourgeoisie. Therefore, that had to go.
But I've got to interrupt because in the United States, you don't have crowned heads to reject.
Well, you've put your finger right on the irony of the thing. For anyone to get excited in design about being anti-bourgeois becomes a totally irrelevant thing. Nevertheless, because it was European, because it was an avant-garde European style, American architects couldn't resist it.
The old, what Wolfe sees as the elegant skyscrapers of New York, were scoffed at. The director of the Museum of Modern Art dismissed them, saying, "We are asked to take seriously the architectural taste of real estate brokers." The stately Empire State and Chrysler buildings still stand, but only just. The new wisdom was to leave taste to the architects. And so, the old 23rd Street Playhouse gave way to this little gem of modernity. Grind the past into rubble, out with the old, up with the new.
The Lever House was put up in 1952 and designed by Gordon Bunshaft of Skidmore, Owings and Merrill. Was the mother of them all for the glass boxes. I mean, it was just glass box after glass box after glass box. Came from the great mother whale over here.
One of the great urban vistas in the world, perhaps, was the view looking south down Park Avenue to Grand Central Station. Then along came Pan American.
Well, that is probably the most glaring example of the spirit in architecture of the 1950s and 1960s, in which you would just take the new box and just jam it up against whatever was there.
These buildings can be very striking when you see them alone or even against older buildings. They have that soaring quality. But what happens when you have them as you have them here, piled one against the other against the other?
Well, I think there was an effect that the originators of this architecture never thought about. As the style begins to triumph totally, suddenly you have one blank building up against another blank building, and there's nothing to play off against.
So many of these new buildings have absolutely no ornamentation. They're so austere. And yet, almost as an afterthought, they will put some, a thing at the base of the building.
The thing that always strikes me is to compare this type of sculpture with the sort of sculpture we saw in front of the U.S. Customs building built in 1907. At that time, you always made the sculpture a tribute, homage to whatever glory was supposed to be manifested by the building. Here, the only tribute that this piece of sculpture is making is to modernism.
But we could never go back to this, could we? We wouldn't have the people to do this sort of work. And that's machine-made, and more or less, this is hand-built.
Well, I think that is another modern myth of architecture. And certainly the developers will tell you, and the architects will tell you, they'll say the craftsmen are extinct. I love that because it makes it sound as if the craftsmen are all pterodactyls, you know, or the dinosaurs or something. A friend of mine, Henry Hope Reed, tells about driving along with a group of craftsmen, and as they went by the Museum of Modern Art building on 52nd Street, suddenly the workmen started shaking their fists at the building and saying, "You bastards, you're killing us. You're putting us out of business." And it was true. The modern movement itself, the glass box movement, put the craftsmen out of business.
In the late 60s, this was what an architect proposed as an annex to the Park Avenue Synagogue. Lots of high-tech exposure. The congregation said no and asked another architect. This plan got as far as the steelwork, and the congregation said stop. A third architect actually built this version, quietly elegant.
Practically every canon of modernism has been violated, and at the last minute, we're seeing the fashion changing, but we're also seeing more than just the architectural fashion. We're seeing suddenly a client, and this has been unheard of now for about the last 40 years, standing up on his own 2 feet and saying, wait a minute, I'm paying for this isn't what I want. This has been extraordinarily rare.
Like every city, New York has undergone an enormous transformation for better or worse since the end of the Second World War. And the transformation continues. The city's skyline changes almost month to month. And mainly it is more of Wolfe's hated glass boxes, his German worker housing. But in the middle of it all is something revolutionary to the enclosed world of architects. One of the disciples of the glass box, Philip Johnson, is building for AT&T, a box indeed, but with, and are you ready for it? An arch, a 6-story Gothic arch, by gosh, and of all things, an unflat top. Tell me, did AT&T impose this building on its architect, or did the architect impose this design on AT&T?
Well, as Philip Johnson himself tells the story, the client, AT&T, came to him and they said, please, Mr. Johnson, we don't really mean to intrude. We don't want to interfere with your artistic sensibilities in any way, but please don't give us a flat top. And from the moment this model was released in pictures, this became the most famous unbuilt American building of the second half of the 20th century. When Philip Johnson himself puts what immediately became described as a Chippendale highboy broken pediment on top of a skyscraper, this was like an official permission granted to the rest of American architects to get rid of the glass box.
There are people who legitimately like these kinds of buildings, who legitimately enjoy looking at them, who legitimately enjoy living in them, or working in them, and whatever.
There are people who like it. To me, though, the important thing is for them or anybody else who cares about this to understand where it came from, to understand that it didn't come from their taste, but from the taste of a very small group of people in another continent, half a world away.
The argument, of course, could be made that the old architects were also importing European taste, acting like copycats, with buildings that would look at home in France or Italy.
But the point I want to make is that we still act that way. You know, this is the American century, so-called. Our people are so wealthy and so full of animal energy that every 43-year-old Cablevision linesman's out on the disco floor with his red eyes beaming through his walnut shell eyelids, dancing with his third wife or his new cookie till the onset of dawn, a saline depletion. And in this century, the robust, full-blooded American century, what do we have in the way of architecture? A European style that prohibits any display of animal energy, grandeur, wealth, power, or any of the rest of it, and rather supinely, the most influential people in America, not the little not the little people, have very willingly gone along with this because it's European.
In 1975, a young producer named Lorne Michaels created a bold new comedy show that began each week with the words, "Live from New York." Since that time, Saturday Night Live has done far more than just survive, a feat in itself. It has been the breeding ground for generations of our funniest comics. So we decided, with awards and accolades pouring his way, to spend some time with Lorne Michaels and his troupe to see how they pull it off after all these years. It just so happens that the week we picked to be with them was the occasion of one of the most famous flubs ever on the show just last weekend, in which the musical guest, Ashley Simpson, walked off the set during what was supposed to be her live performance. It was the culmination of a typically frenetic week, and we were there for a behind-the-scenes look at how the show is put together.
Saturday Night Live!
Saturday Night Live is doing what it's been doing for nearly 30 years. A cast of a dozen or so comedians spoof what's in, lampoon who's powerful, and just act silly.
Monster scene, take one.
Here's cast member Will Forte playing a green monster.
Stop!
When this sketch is over, Forte will have just 3 minutes to morph into the President of the United States. This is the only live entertainment show left on network television.
It sounds like another one of those exaggerations.
Saturday Night Live is 90 minutes of flying without a net.
On a Monday.
As they found out last Saturday night, when the musical guest, Ashley Simpson, walked off the set in the middle of her performance because of a lip-syncing miscue. It stunned everyone, including the man in charge, Lorne Michaels. Has any performer ever walked off the set like that?
No.
The reason there haven't been more mess-ups like this is because of Lorne's rule. No ad-libs. Everything is written down on cue cards and rehearsed. The show, when you see it, has the feel of ad-lib. It just has that feel to it. And yet I read that you lock it in.
It's totally nailed down. Yeah.
Wow.
But
it doesn't look that way.
Because
really.
because there's a raggedness that comes from just doing a show that quickly. I mean, you're going from blank page to on the air in 6 days.
We were there last week when the process started on Monday afternoon in Lorne's office. The writers and performers meet the guest host.
Jude Law is there.
In this case, actor Jude Law for the first time. He has more say about what'll be in the show than we imagined. The staff tosses out ideas for sketches to see what he likes.
Seth?
Maybe an idea where you're a professor at like an esteemed British university for cads.
Chris?
The scene where we play half-brothers, because let's face it, that's all anybody would believe.
Hey. All right, let's start.
After the pitch session, the writers sit at computers with the show's cast members.
Come right up, ding ding. Come right up, ding ding.
Trying to come up with something, anything.
Oh, I don't know what I'm gonna do, Dad.
They work like this all through Tuesday and into Wednesday with no sleep. Michaels is in his office pulling his own all-nighter, meeting with whoever needs his help. It's the way he has always run his show from its debut in 1975 with a cast of unknowns like John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd.
Jane, you ignorant slut.
These comedians became the voice of their generation.
We are two wild and crazy guys.
I wonder if you think you were an expression of the times or if you created some of the time.
Definitely an expression of the times.
We were
yes.
in a rebellious time. It was
Well,
civil
we were
rights.
yes, and we were questioning authority.
Spear chucker. White trash. Jungle bunny. Hunky. Spade. Hunky hunky. Nigger. Dead hunky.
Did you think you were being brave then? Because it was dangerous, the kind of stuff you were putting on national
I don't know that we thought it was I don't think we thought of it. Brave isn't, you're just sort of hoping that it works. You were hoping that it connects with the audience. And
But
we
you
were
knew
sort of,
you were pushing us. You
Yes,
knew,
yes,
knew that we were gasping.
Our top story tonight.
Our top story tonight.
when we did News for the Hard of Hearing in the 70s, people would laugh at that because it was silly.
Good night and have a pleasant.
Good night and have a pleasant tomorrow.
We didn't think of it as mean-spirited.
And you're saying you couldn't do that today?
Definitely couldn't do that today because it's a disability.
But listen to what they do. Here's Finesse Mitchell.
I think it's time that our own government realized some women need serious help naming their babies here in this country, especially young black women. I'm speaking up for all the LaQuays and Calamaris of the world, okay?
Lorne Michaels says the secret of the show is that the humor and the cast have changed with the times, from the Bill Murray and Gilda Radner era.
What is that bewitching scent you're wearing?
Vicks Vapor Rub.
To Chris Farley. For this year's cast, there's a lot to live up to.
I think the difference between us and the early years was, that, we're showing up and there's all this history and, like, this place is a temple now. I think we all respect it.
The first time the writers know whether the sketches they've worked on are funny is Wednesday afternoon when everyone files into the writer's room to hear the goods. This is like the cabinet room in the White House. It is, with the aides all around.
With worse food.
On barely any sleep, the writers and cast have come up with 47 sketches, 36 more than they'll need.
John Kerry makes me angry with his $200 haircuts, his fancy suits, and his big French nose.
For 4 hours, everyone is keyed on the guy next to Jude, hoping the Godfather will give up a smirk, a chuckle, or maybe, just maybe, a laugh. When it's all over, Lorne and Jude go to the board in Lorne's office to boil the 47 sketches down to just 11.
I quite enjoyed that one because it was just so complete. For me, it was being totally ridiculous. Okay.
This week, there'll be lots of politics, which is nothing new. Every president since Nixon has felt the sting.
Stay the course, 1,000 points of light.
I am bulletproof.
Have you ever been pressured by an administration to back off, either directly or indirectly?
No.
What about your own politics?
I'm registered as an independent. I think it's incredibly important that the show not be partisan. I think that's...
Don't let your own biases,
Never.
whatever they are. Even so, after more than 30 years in show business, Lorne Michaels has so much power and influence, he's the master of his own universe. He's beloved, but not by everyone. Some former cast members say the atmosphere in the show is cutthroat and that Lorne can be distant and aloof. It's even been said he inspired Mike Myers' movie character Dr. Evil in the Austin Powers movies. Watch the similarities.
Right.
Dr. Evil.
Yes.
Is it?
Well,
Do you? Is it?
I don't think it is literally, no.
To be fair, you've also been called kind, generous, loyal, cute.
Now, are any of those going to make it to air?
I just said it.
Yeah, okay.
The one issue that riles Lorne Michaels is drugs because of the overdose death of John Belushi after he'd left the show. It's been said that Michaels turned a blind eye to drug use at the show in the early years, but he denies an accusation that he fueled Belushi's cocaine habit.
I never gave him drugs. Somebody said I gave him drugs.
So it's not true?
No, it's not true.
Well, then let's get that denied right
now.
now.
Okay.
In the early 90s, when Chris Farley came along, Michaels sent him to rehab. But 2 years after he left the show, Farley died of an overdose at 33. Now Lorne, at 59, is concerned with projecting a cleaner image. His friends say because he's now the father of 3 young children. This is the cue card. Oh, different colors for different people?
For everybody has their own color.
Oh. Preparing for the show on Thursday and Friday, Lorne oversees the nuts and bolts. Costumes are made. Sets are built. This is Friday.
This is Friday.
Friday night.
This is Friday night.
It's almost 7 o'clock Friday night.
Yes, right. And
You're
we're...
pretty loose for Friday night.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's not my first show.
He's even calm on Saturday, 3 hours before air. There's a full rehearsal they call dress in front of a live audience, and Lorne, in a tiny alcove under the bleachers, is still fine-tuning.
These bananas are so hard to eat!
He dictates changes depending on how hard and if the audience laughs.
Kerry then tried to win over Cuban voters in Florida by shooting Fidel Castro.
Everything is going smoothly until Ashley Simpson rehearses. When she finishes, she rushes out and darts past us in tears, upset about her voice. Tell me what's happening.
Ashley Simpson is worried about her voice. They're worried about her losing her voice, and so they weren't sure whether she should sing at dress, try and save it for the air show.
With just over an hour to air, the show is still too fat by 30 minutes. Lorne and Jude meet to make the cuts, and then the writers and performers read the board to see if their sketches are in or out. It can be devastating.
That's a hard lesson to learn, because in the beginning you're like, what the hell? I called my parents? My grandma's watching, and I'm not even going to be on the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jude Law!
It's showtime, and Lorne is on the set looking like a father at his kid's recital. Everything is going well until Ashley Simpson starts her second song. Watch what happens.
On a Monday, I am waiting. Tuesday.
Because her voice was hoarse, Ashley had decided to lip sync a tape recording of her song. But when the wrong song came up, she did an awkward little dance. She looked confused, not sure what to do. Then, flustered, she walked off the set. Everyone on the show was stunned, including Lorne Michaels, who told us he didn't know she was planning to lip sync. No one ever said the words to you,
No.
Can we lip sync?
Oh, absolutely not.
Has any performer, to your knowledge, ever lip synced on Saturday Night Live?
I think the only time is during dance breaks, where if it was all about dance, and that's a relatively recent phenomenon.
You've taken some hits yourself this week.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, I don't have any big welts or bruises. I mean, you know, it's life goes on, and the great part about Saturday Night Live is there's always next week.
What can I say? Live TV.
Exactly. I feel so bad my band started playing the wrong song.
The bungle obscured a funny show. Lots of politics, lots of poking fun at the powerful.
When the show is bright and funny, it's a great feeling, and I think it's a force for good. I'm
Why is
proud
it
of that work.
important?
Comedy is very powerful, and there's no protection against it. Comedy is a thing that comes from an openness and a freedom.
You know, you're right. It really is an expression of our freedom, isn't it?
Totally.
And our system.
Yes.
Because you can make fun of the president.
And get paid for it.
The phrase, the greatest show on earth, usually refers to the circus. But a man named Peter Gelb, who runs the Metropolitan Opera in New York City, is doing everything he can to change that. He's reinventing opera, making it accessible to more people, even those who always thought they would hate it. Gelb wants opera to become as popular and populist as it was 100 years ago. He believes people would come out in droves for opera if they just had a chance to see it.
There's no other place where you can see such monumental staging, elaborate sets, and a cast of hundreds. And raw emotion. Beautiful women, defiant and doomed. and special effects that you might expect to find in a Hollywood movie. But it's not just about the magic. The Met is above all about extraordinary voices. Some of the very best voices in the world. Beginning with rehearsals, we followed a new production, a reimagining of Giuseppe Verdi's masterpiece, Rigoletto. Polish tenor Piotr Beczala belts out one of Verdi's greatest hits.
What's the difference between singing at the Met and singing in the smaller European houses?
It's the most important opera house in the world.
Do you get more nervous before Met performance than at other performances?
Maybe a little. Maybe a little because I know how important it is here.
Serbian baritone Zelko Lucic sings the role of Rigoletto.
Signori, pietà signori, pietà.
This is this kind of crown of our business, coming to New York and Metropolitan. Because I know what kind of people, what singers sang here and stood at the same places where I'm.
In fact, when you sing the first time at the Met,
yeah,
is it a very big deal?
Yes, because that's your chance to prove yourself. And if you're, you know, if you, how can I say, blew it out?
If you blow it.
If you blow it, you're done. That's it.
Unlike divas of the past, German soprano Diana Damrau is a working mom, nursing a 2-month-old baby and a cold. She has a lot to contend with.
You were quite sick last week.
Yes, I'm still a bit, but I tried not to sing all the time and reduce a little bit.
Just a little bit?
Be
I mean, you were belting it out.
No, only at the end.
Rigoletto is far from the only thing going on here today. There can be as many as 10 operas in production at once. Right now, the Met stage is being set up for a new version of Richard Wagner's Parsifal, a sacred opera that's never been done like this before. Dozens of raven-haired maidens sloshing around in a river of blood. 1,600 gallons of the stuff, heated so the singers don't get cold. Overseeing all this is that worried-looking man, Peter Gelb, the Met's general manager. He says opera is a blood sport.
I go in every day to the Met knowing that there is a battle to be waged and fought for the survival of this art form. And so I'm here to do that.
This is your 7th year at the Met?
Yes, I'm still here.
7 years micromanaging one of the biggest theaters in the world, and one of the most expensive to run. The Met employs over 3,000 people. It spends more than $1 million a day on its productions.
We are the closest thing to an opera factory that one could possibly imagine, except the difference is that all of our factory workers are the greatest artists in the world.
Right now.
We're doing 7 performances a week, constantly going from opera to opera, which is why our stage is busier than any other opera house in the world. It's like a giant self-sufficient ocean liner.
But that liner was in danger of sinking when Gelb took over in 2006. It was awash in debt with falling attendance and an audience which might not be around much longer.
It was way behind the times, and it had become so mired in an image of elitism that unless that changed, unless it was prepared to become accessible, as opera once had been, it was going to be very difficult for the Met to survive.
To make opera more accessible, Gelb opened up dress rehearsals to the public for free and put up huge screens in Lincoln Center and Times Square. And he did something which has never been done before. He began transmitting live performances in HD to movie theaters around the world, now in 64 countries. Those broadcasts are moneymakers. This year, they grossed nearly $60 million, more than 3/4 of total tickets sold.
There's no opera company in the world today that has a global audience that the Met has because of these live HD transmissions.
But you're still $100 million in debt. How does that relate to everything you've done?
Opera is always in debt. From a business point of view, opera shouldn't exist. I mean, it only exists because there are enough people who love opera, and my job is to try to persuade them that it is necessary to change in order to keep the art form alive. Otherwise it will die with them.
One of Gelb's strategies to keep opera alive is to update the classics like Rigoletto. After 4 weeks of rehearsals, it's opening night. Rigoletto has been performed over 800 times here, but this audience, almost 4,000 here and another 350,000 watching in HD as far away as Tokyo, is about to see a radically different version. 10 minutes before curtain, you can cut the tension with an A flat.
Oh, okay, we are ready. It seems that I'm not nervous, but yeah, of course I am. And this is a big thing. So I'm kind of, cooking somewhere here. You have this feeling that that you're going to throw up.
Gilda to stage right, please. Miss Damrad, stage right.
Please. Maestro to the pit, please. Maestro to the orchestra pit, please.
Giuseppe Verdi set his tale of debauchery, lust, and vengeance in a corrupt court in 16th century Italy. This one plays out in its modern equivalent. Las Vegas in the 1960s. The heartthrob, the Duke, is now a big-shot singer and casino owner with an eye for the ladies. The Met provides subtitles for its HD broadcasts, and those have been revamped too. It's a big roll of the dice for Peter Gelb. Will the old guard be ready for showgirls, a pole dancer, even a sharp-dressed hitman? His name is Spadafuccio, one of the longest names in opera.
When you decided to put on Rigoletto in Las Vegas, what worried you the most?
That I was heading for a disaster but it's a risk worth taking. The risk of doing nothing is the greatest risk of all.
I got you.
In the last act, the mood changes. Rigoletto will not have a happy ending. Very few operas do.
Let's go and die.
Yes, but peacefully.
The plot is much too complicated to explain, but we'll just tell you, Rigoletto's daughter sacrifices herself to save the Duke. It will be a spectacular death scene, with the Met pulling out all its stops, from the chorus backstage to the lighting team to the HD crew sending it out live around the world. The hitman offs the daughter and stuffs her into the trunk of a 1960 Cadillac Coupe de Ville. She breathes her last in her father's arms.
Ready on 3. Wait for it.
At the final curtain, the audience jumps to its feet. Even the orchestra applauds. That doesn't happen every day. For Gelb, it was a good night. But in opera, as in so many other things, you're only as good as your next night.
If you want to get a fix on what's gone wrong with the American family and the American city, spend some time, as we did recently, in New York's family court and be a witness to the ways in which law and disorder works or doesn't. Stay long enough, you'll see it all. The battered child, the crack mother, the 10-year-old mugger, the burnt-out social worker, the nitpicking lawyer, all of them sloshing through the well-meaning swamp called the child welfare system. And you'll find presiding there Judith Sheindlin, Judge Judith Sheindlin. And if you find her a little bit shrill, a little bit testy, well, she'd be very pleased.
Unless he's in a hospital, he's to be in school. Clear, sir? This is not a legal game, counselor. This witness may not have a terrific memory, but I've got a very good memory, sir. You have a lot more questions? Good. Well, what do you want me to give him, a testimonial dinner? Thank you very much. Step out.
She is a 5'2" package of attitude with a capital A. And pity the young lawyer who dares to question the judge's judgment.
Well, are you suggesting, Miss Gutierrez, that if I placed him on probation, he would never go visit his mother?
No,
are you
Judge.
suggesting that?
No,
so
Judge.
let's be real.
To those who confront her, she is the evil queen in a lace collar.
If that's too hard for you, sir, I guarantee you I will put you someplace where you're going to be in bed at 9 o'clock and in school every day. That's where the rest of your friends are.
And she deals with legal procedures with a scalpel.
So your objection's noted. It's overruled. Have a seat. No, listen to me. This is not a tea party. You make an objection, I rule.
The players in this theater of misery are the judge, lawyers, caseworkers, addicted parents, and castaway children.
You make a fool of me again, sir, by not doing what you're supposed to do, and I guarantee you it'll be a very sorry day. We understand each other? Yes. The respondent is paroled to his father in conjunction with the dome.
Unlike criminal court, there is no jury. Those present are supposed to work out a solution that is supposed to be in the best interest of the child. It is never easy.
This baby was born drug addicted, and if you keep using drugs, the other baby is going to be born drug addicted. And I'm telling you right now, you're not going to take this baby home from the hospital because the commissioner's not going to let you.
And when she feels the best interest of the child is to scare the living daylights out of him, she does not shy away.
Now for you, Joey, I want you to stand up, because I have a few things to say to you. I am dismissing this case, sir, because the law says that I must. That doesn't mean you're innocent, sir. That doesn't mean that you weren't involved in both of these robberies that night. That just means that they weren't able to prove it. We understand each other, sir?
Yes.
That little boy, 13-year-old boy, was sitting right here. And you were trying to scare the hell out of him.
Correct.
You think you did?
I don't know, but I try.
No, but do you think you really scared him? You think...
I scared him not only by what I said to him verbally, but by the fact that when he was originally in the court, he was arraigned before another judge, and he was told to go to a particular program, an all-day school, and he didn't go. I said to him, we're not playing games here with you. This is the rule. You were told you were going to be paroled if you went to the alternatives to detention school. You didn't go to the school, you go to detention. I mean, if we're going to make orders, we have to be prepared to enforce them. Otherwise, everybody laughs at us and thinks that we're full of baloney, right?
And baloney is what she hates. But lectures she likes a lot, likes to give them. And when a caseworker seems to be dragging his feet, there is the threat of nuclear response.
Sir, you don't want me to have palpitations, do you? What? Very bad when I get palpitations. You have to see to it that this visitation takes place. It's very important that this child get to see his mother and his grandmother. And the longer he spends not seeing his family, the more difficult it's going to be. Is that a fair statement, sir? Yes. Well, then let's just do it. The goal is to get them to do the right thing. Nobody who comes into my courtroom who's done the right thing is afraid. They're afraid if they come in and they do the routine thing, which is just giving me a lot of rhetoric and gobbledygook, either one of two things are going to happen. Either they're going to say, I want off this case, I'm never going back there before that monster again, or they'll say, the next time I come in, I better have done my job better.
Do they ever mouth off at you?
Rarely.
Indeed. Robert Little, the commissioner of the Child Welfare Administration, had some choice words about the judge, up until the cameras started turning. Then this.
She's always been very cordial, and, you know, we get along well as far as I know.
You get along well personally, but I don't think your agency gets along well with the judge.
Well, she talks to me a great deal about things that need improvement, as do a number of judges, and we attempt to make the necessary adjustments.
Why must a caseworker have 3 supervisors?
We have an initial supervisor 1 that is essentially a backup to the unit supervisor. The unit supervisor has a manager, a case protective manager, who supervises a number of units.
And very often, these 2 supervisors and this caseworker has another supervisor.
It's 4 so far.
Right. They are represented by a child welfare attorney who practices here in the court.
5.
Now, they get this one child. Usually it's more than one in a family, but let's say they get this one child. And the city decides we are going to subcontract the care of that child to a private care agency, another business. There are many of them, but it's a private agency. That private agency has a caseworker, a supervisor. That supervisor has a supervisor, and minimally, that agency also has a lawyer that we all pay for. Now, we are paying for 9 people
for 1 child.
For that child.
More than half the payments for family foster care in New York City go to kinship foster care, a program that enlists relatives, usually grandmothers, to look after abused or neglected children. While many people say it's an excellent way to keep families together, others, like Judge Scheindlin, say it's a way to rip off the city for big money. And she has a favorite example.
Well, that was a foster mother who was a grandmother who had 6 children, 6 grandchildren with her, and the children were ultimately removed from her because they found the children living in abysmal conditions. This lady had been receiving $3,000 a month from the city.
This is the grandmother.
The city to take care of the grandchildren. And when I asked her, what were you doing with the money? Her response to me was, I bought a house in Puerto Rico.
The judge says the system of paying a grandmother to be a foster parent, in theory, removing a child from a destructive mother, is an invitation for the whole family to cheat.
That money is tax-free. Nobody monitors what's done with that money. Nobody monitors how it's spent. I've had cases where both parents work for the Child Welfare Administration and their children are in kinship foster care. It was used like a babysitting service.
The judge's repetition of these horror stories has opened her up to accusations that she's insensitive to the needs of the people she serves, not least to the problems of caseworkers. The city would not allow its caseworkers to talk to us, so we asked Commissioner Little. Part of Judge Scheinland's problem with this agency is a caseworker comes in, often with as many as 3 or 4, an entourage of 3 or 4 people, of supervisors and a lawyer, and nobody in that entourage is familiar with the case.
Well, I've always been open to the judge's constructive improvement suggestions and would continue to be so.
But when they do come in like that, she beats up on them.
I don't have any personal observations of that type of thing, but I do get a number of reports that suggest that they're not held in high esteem.
New York City lawyers might feel the same after a session in Judge Scheinland's courtroom.
Mr. Wilger, because I run my courtroom, right?
I know you run your courtroom.
That's
I know
correct,
all
sir.
too well
The
you run
tail doesn't wag the dog. So all I'm asking you is, do you want me to order new reports or whether we will use the old reports?
Well, I just want to state my position on it.
That's denied.
My position
That's denied.
is that I believe
That is,
my
Mr. Wilger,
client,
Mr.
many
Wilger.
things we're going into with my client.
You
that
want new
weren't
reports?
appropriate,
You want new reports, sir?
I believe that those are on this
Oh,
report.
God
in these
almighty.
reports, and I just...
Just tell me what you want. Old reports or new reports? And I'll give you whatever you want.
Well, I believe that new reports should be ordered. I
Good.
believe
Order
that reports should
new
be
reports.
ordered because
Order
I believe that there are many
new-
statements that were
Good.
To Scheinland, justice must not only be done and seen to be done, it must be seen to be done fast.
Could you please move on, Miss Allen? I have about 20 other cases to do today, Counselor.
Objections? Forget it.
Your Honor, I would object. I believe this is beyond the scope of direct, and I would
Just a
ask that Ms.
second.
Allen adopt this witness as her own if she's going to ask these types of questions.
Okay, let me tell you this, so that you don't make that objection again. Since you have an objection on the 2 grounds that I made, sit down and don't interrupt this proceeding again. Sit down.
I was stating
Sit
that...
down. You have a standing objection. And if you want to state any other bases for your objection, I will direct that the reporter be here at 5 o'clock, because I have 30 other cases to do, and you can come in and put any ground that you want on the record.
Yes, Your Honor.
Good.
Miss Levy had only one more thing to say. Just read her lips. If you missed it, it rhymes with witch.
I worry that occasionally, because I'm outspoken, that somebody's going to say, well, this lady's not going to be reappointed. We're not going to give her another opportunity to beat our brains out. You know, we'll find somebody else who won't beat our brains out. I mean, come on, we understand what's happening here. This hand doesn't know what this hand is doing. And now we want...
Judge,
now,
all we're saying,
all
Judge.
I want you to say, Mr. Hill, is that I'll take care of it this week. You can put families back together again. You can find the right place for a kid who's in trouble. You can make a difference in the life of a family. And if you see a situation like that, and if you're not willing to commit yourself to breaking a sweat, then you don't belong in this business. Go to work in surrogate's court. Everybody's dead over there.
So much for her judicial colleagues. For 20 years, Judge Scheinland has worked family court, first in the Bronx, now in Manhattan. She's the fastest judge in the system, nearly 300 cases a month, a judicial treadmill. She uses a real one in the gym where the machinery never talks back. Did you terrorize your own kids the way you terrorize other people's kids in court?
They ignore me. They knew at a very early age how to impose young Jewish guilt on their working mother. So although I tried to be intimidating, I don't think I was very successful.
She's had 2 husbands and raised 5 children, 3 of them following her into the law. Adam, a prosecutor on Long Island, said his mother maintained a unique code of justice at home.
There's the Court of Appeals, there's even the Appellate Division. But there is no appeals here.
It's Mom.
That's it.
Judy's Law.
It's Judy's Law. That's exactly what it is.
And festive family dinners are done in the traditional Manhattan way. They're ordered in.
You want to know the recipe? 212, dial. Food.
There are legions of caseworkers and lawyers who will go into shock at these scenes. The evil queen in the role of fairy grandmother.
Give me a kiss.
Given what you have to deal with every day, the degradation, the abuse, the pain, the suffering, God knows, what does it do to the judge?
What keeps me going are those few cases, maybe 10 a year. Maybe 10 a year. And I do maybe 1,000 cases a year. Maybe 10 of them I can make a real positive difference. That keeps you going. I try to get the best out of people who come before me. I try to give them my best, try to make the best possible solution very often out of a very terrible situation. I know it's just a Band-Aid, but it's the best Band-Aid I can put on it.
You think 10 years from now it's going to be better or worse here?
Worse. A lot worse.
By even the most conservative estimates, there are still hundreds of thousands of homeless people in the United States. But you don't see a lot on television about the problem these days, probably because what many people thought was a disgrace 10 years ago has become part of the urban landscape, one of those problems that seems too difficult to solve. But all across the country, nonprofit organizations using government and private money believe they found a solution that deals with the problem better than it's ever been dealt with before, and for less money. We decided to check it out, and we didn't have to go very far. What we found will change your perceptions about homelessness. It sure changed ours. It's best known for its billboards and its Broadway marquees, and the spot where the New Year's ball drops each year before a national audience. But a short walk away from the Times Square the tourists see, you'll find the old Times Square Hotel. From the outside, it looks like an upscale apartment building, and inside, well, it looks like the Waldorf. You would never guess that just 7 years ago this was a notorious flophouse, bankrupt and dilapidated, or that half of the 650 tenants here used to be homeless. Jerry and her dog Cleo once lived in a vacant lot. Deese, who's reading the Wall Street Journal, wandered the street for 14 years. Kenny has had his own apartment for 2 years now. But this is how a CBS News crew found him back in 1992. They're just part of the eclectic mix of people who live here. Low-income elderly, people with AIDS, the mentally ill, and the working poor, which includes a lot of young artists and aspiring actors and musicians who make less than $25,000 a year and like having a cheap studio apartment in the theater district. And there are some real characters, like Doris, who pushes a shopping cart full of her belongings and carries a walkie-talkie that seems to work only for her.
How does it work having all these different kinds of people here?
Well, it's never dull. Whenever we advertise for positions, we tend to use the phrase lively atmosphere.
7 years ago, Roseanne Haggerty was developing low-income housing for Brooklyn Catholic Charities when she decided to rescue the Times Square, probably from the wrecking ball. This is what it looked like back then. It was managed by a slumlord who was charging the city as much as $1,500 a month to house indigent families in rotting, single-room occupancy apartments. Some rooms were so filthy that professional cleaning crews refused to enter them. A lot of people thought Haggerty was crazy when she quit her job, formed her own nonprofit group, Common Ground Community, and convinced city officials to provide her with a $29 million low-interest loan to buy and renovate the building.
She got the money to restore the lobby from 4 big corporations: Clorox, J.P. Morgan, Dime Savings Bank, and Ben & Jerry's Ice Cream. They received federal tax credits for investing in low-income housing and in the restoration of an historic building. What Haggerty promised to do in return for the money was to help solve 2 pressing problems. Half of the units would be set aside for much-needed low-income housing, the other half for the homeless.
But the Times Square is a lot more than a government-subsidized low-income apartment building. It is the largest and most dramatic example of something called supportive housing. It's called supportive housing because tucked away above the grand old lobby are the offices of social workers, substance abuse experts, and vocational counselors, all there to help people deal with the problems that caused them to become homeless in the first place. They help the elderly manage their finances. They encourage recovering addicts to stay clean. They counsel people during personal crises and help them negotiate the government bureaucracy to get the benefits they're eligible for.
So we're going to do your Section 8 application.
And according to Tony Hannigan, whose nonprofit Center for Urban Community Services runs this part of the operation, it's all available where it will do the most good, right where people live.
We're talking about helping people set up an apartment when they move into the building, pots and pans, shopping for dishes. We're talking about working with a person to get linked up to a mental health clinic in the community, seeing if the medication they're being prescribed is working out for them. You name it, we do it.
We've tried to create, the social fabric that many people here, especially those who are homeless, are otherwise completely bereft of.
In fact, at any given moment in the life of the building, you'd have a hard time figuring out exactly who had been homeless. Take Earl Walker, who used to be a crack addict and lived in the stairwell and on the roof of a building in the Bronx, gathering returnable bottles in cans for money.
I listen to people having their Christmas dinners and so forth from the staircase, you know, the music, the stuff like that. Not very enjoyable at all.
What do you remember about that time?
Loneliness. Very lonely. I felt like I was the only person in the world.
Now, instead of living on rooftops, he patrols them, working full-time as a security guard. The people at the Times Square trained him and found him the work.
They gave me a job. It was the first job I don't know in how long. And here's this money that you're making, you're earning. Nobody's giving it to you.
Like most people at the Times Square, he didn't come here directly from the street. He ended up in the city's vast shelter system where he said the conditions were barbaric, probably worse than prison, and almost as hard to get out of. From there, he went through a residential drug treatment program and eventually landed a spot at the Times Square.
For the first time, I could sleep without having one eye open, you know, not worrying about, is my stuff going to be there when I wake up?
Like everyone here, he pays 1/3 of his income in rent. In his case, $390 a month. All of the apartments are single rooms with private baths, and it doesn't take long to get the full tour.
Here's my eating area and my bed. They kind of double as both.
It's modest, but a far cry from the cot he occupied at the Brooklyn Armory. He still keeps his ID cards from those days in the city shelter system.
Look like a different person, that's for sure. Those are like my little reminders if I get too cocky on myself, you know, just to remember where I came from.
How much do you think being here at Times Square had to do with your turnaround?
Plenty. I'm learning how to be independent, how to budget the money I was getting, to feed myself, pay bills, you know, all the responsibilities that a normal person has. I was like a child learning how to walk again.
Earl Walker thinks of this as a stepping stone. He plans to get a degree in electrical engineering at a local community college. There are lots of success stories here, not all of them so dramatic. Some you wouldn't even notice unless someone pointed them out to you. Like Ron, who is developmentally disabled and ended up living in a doorway on West 31st Street after both of his parents, who'd been taking care of him, passed away.
I will not forget the day he moved in. He looked half human, just hair matted and so broken down.
Since then, he's gotten help from the Times Square social workers and vocational counselors, and today he works part-time doing odd jobs within the building.
Here's a guy who would not say more than yes or no when he moved into the building, if he said that.
You're probably wondering who pays for all of this and how much it costs. Well, 60% of the annual operating budget comes from existing public funds of one kind or another. The rest comes mainly from rent paid by the tenants. Altogether, Haggerty estimates that it costs the taxpayers about $10,000 a year to house a homeless person at the Times Square, but she says it would be costing the taxpayers a lot more if they were somewhere else.
Those 300 tenants who are living here now, who were homeless, they were in shelters at $20,000 plus a year in public money before they lived here. Some were in jails at $58,000, $60,000 a year before they moved here. There are many who are coming from psychiatric hospitals where the public cost is $113,000 a year in New York State. This is a bargain.
I mean, if you don't do anything about homelessness, it costs you more.
But how can a room in a place like this cost less than a cot someplace like this? Well, for one thing, the Times Square can afford to be selective. It has a 14-month waiting list and will not accept anyone who is still abusing alcohol or drugs. For another, most people here work and pay rent. To get people started, there are 60 jobs right in the building. On the top floor, tenants learn food service skills and help run a meal program and a catering operation.
We've had weddings up here, and just recently the opening party for a Broadway play, which was a lot of fun.
On the ground floor, they work in the Starbucks coffee shop that Roseanne Haggerty lured into the building, and at the Ben & Jerry's franchise next door, which the company donated to the Times Square. The rent that the Starbucks is paying and the profits from the Ben & Jerry's help pay for the job counselors and the training programs that put the tenants to work. But the biggest savings of all for the taxpayer comes because people here are living independently instead of requiring 24-hour-a-day institutional care. People like Ann Herman, who's 34 years old and has been diagnosed with multiple personality disorder. On Monday through Thursday morning, she's Annie Laurie, one of her 15 different personalities. She works in an office on the ground floor, crunching data and monitoring the building's compliance with a major federal program. On Friday afternoon, she's one of either two 12-year-olds, Melissa or Elizabeth, who work making waffle cones at the Ben & Jerry's.
Ready, set, go. Get over here.
Is it easy for you to live here and to function here?
Yes, because I've got as much independence as I can handle and as much support as I need.
If you weren't here doing this, where would you be?
I don't know. I would either be on a shelter, God forbid, or on the streets. I can't imagine me living on the streets. Probably I would be in and out of hospitals, repeatedly in and out of hospitals.
Before she came to the Times Square, she used to end up in mental hospitals every 2 or 3 months at a cost to the taxpayer of about $1,000 a day. And now?
Once a year. It's been a whole year since a hospitalization.
How many people come here and can't make it?
Well, I can, maybe if one definition of that is what's our rate of eviction, what's the turnover rate? Last year it was just over 1%. So it's sort of extraordinary, but that's basically the result of the fact that we're set up to see that people succeed at their housing, that they have help in coping with the issues that had defeated them in the past.
What's happening here at the Times Square is not an isolated example. There are now more than 100 buildings of supportive housing in New York City alone, and it seems to be working in places like Chicago, San Francisco, Minneapolis, and in other cities and towns. But the supply does not begin to meet the demand. Is this really a solution to homelessness?
Of course, it works. People remain housed, they don't become homeless again.
Why isn't there more of it?
Well, in part, perhaps it's that the solution is not well known or well understood. But I think it also comes down to political will and the choices we make as far as where our resources go.
We weren't able to find anyone who thought supportive housing was a bad idea, only that it has certain limitations. It's very expensive at the beginning to acquire and renovate buildings, and the public funds to do it are becoming scarcer and scarcer. And not even Roseanne Haggerty and Tony Hannigan think this will work for everyone. Active substance abusers and people with acute mental illnesses are beyond their help, at least until they get the appropriate treatment.
Maybe it's not right for everyone at an exact moment in time, but ultimately this is a type of approach to homelessness that can really address 80 to 90% of those people who are on our streets.
I mean, the fact is that there are still thousands of people out there who are homeless who it would work for, and there's just not enough of it available.
We found some of those people one morning last winter, sleeping in doorways and cardboard boxes on the edge of major highways and in storage bins where the railroads once stored coal. The people who run the Times Square say its very existence provides the homeless with the one thing they need almost as much as a roof over their heads. some sense of hope and motivation. Some of the people who now live here were once on the outside, with their noses pressed to the front window. They saw something that was within their reach, and they decided to grasp.